马罗松呢，等到我这边多嘞是康些建的街吧，等马去在了街面上去有嘛，建的然后等东把你康东里多吧，还有一种罗他妈老乡那种弄的。
I think the beginning was a little cut off, but I think I got everything. So it was just the Moonlight Sutra, I think. So the Moonlight Sutra states that which is born from conditions is unborn because it has no real birth. That which depends on conditions is empty. Whosoever realizes emptiness is vigilant.
我真的，但牛毛吧，那边多块康姐姐姐妹多个吧，我但牛毛嘛，那多还是真的姐妹的，姐妹些那他姐用呢，同样要嘛是吧？姐把没意思，这姐妹姐把他多块，这巧克力是小就，姐把他了姐妹，姐把他当姐妹，你从有呢啊，在结婚去了，这有了那么那多姐就结婚去了，这你从有那这弄就落不过来是，姐把没一心就姐把这，但上元起来。drop 就 drop 吧，这追尾过来，但是那套是往学生上面忙不在 drop 去了，我才追尾过来也是。那真的，他多话在了，也他看到我帮起码行样嘛，着吧？我问你，个人吧是，我问你个人呗。要么那套查拉行，就让你听人桥呗去，没桥呗，当年是马路吧？多话现在就看嘛就吧，先把送拉是，地方去马送嘛，啷子当我才心里是就是听先把送拉是，但要么那套看人那地方学生的，桥当没送接着也是，第一个往头马说了，先把这看就马送讲，说你们俩去过的也送去啥的吧？
So then, uh, realize the unborn nature of afflictive emotions and conceptual thought. That is the Dharmakaya. And so this unborn nature is that you realize that when you see that there's nothing that can be actually seen when you look at those afflictions. And then the non-dual nature of birth and non-birth is the unity of the Sambhogakaya, or the unity of arising and non-arising. That is the Sambhogakaya. And then all actions, positive and negative, arising from conceptual thought, which is within the unborn, are Nirmanakaya. So all the various activities, and the good and the bad that arise driven by our thoughts, even though that thought is unborn, these are the Nirmanakaya manifestations. And so the important point is that we must be in control of our thoughts, of our mind when engaging in actions. So that is now here when we lose control, when we are not in control of our emotions, then we engage in all kinds of uncontrolled positive and negative activities. And so the various activities that we engage in by nature are the Nirmanakaya. And then the fact that conceptual thought is established nowhere, whether through shape, color, objects, or signs, that is the Svabhavika Kaya. And it is important to hold mindfulness without the interference of conceptual thoughts. So meaning that what is important is to not allow thoughts to take hold, to take control of you. So.
我真的他这两道的几趟车里头，要么开始他穷穷的开始他们都，你们买进这个上有看这个嘛的是，你女里面都没错，你们当年的那马路巴士，多把钱看见嘛，看嘛就先把送是多把钱把票嘛送刚说送过来也是，这送的到你们俩去过来是，我点趟这边你们俩去过啥？台湾从嘛送为，咱们是当些身边协当间，别他协当是别下来，我们那协当是别下来，协当间他咱让他多加点呢，这个是现在拉说别给。牛毛吧，所这边哪怕他年没在身边都被牛毛都休息不完的，让我去没把他甚至怎么当呢？真的哪怕他年没身边他们去，但是牛毛点的刚刚提供三马的用，这边适当的现在抽送别三马的叔叔马的用的，我听对哪怕他年没身边他们去，对话他这样，东岸他车牛头那没被让他把做被强求人不拖把去， 强求 CMG，我他的强求 CMG 过来是，这里强求 CMG 的是个，我这里他的是就说这强求 CMG 的球嘛，但是让一他们看那这一他们他自然的，我真的他当年去不，上内他一他们提上内课堂是他说对为我说些这种很多都在那里拉人吧，我这种很多都在那，我这那么全把下的那么自然的，这牛毛那把的话才开始是呢，牛毛那把的话才你让下面一把汤。Sam te domanda, ma c'è ba? Non mondo va, non pot Sam chung. Sam ne je trop de yo ma de, di non pot hu chen bu zai le mu du. De ne ga ran so zai Sam da zai trop mu yo ba. 我这trop lo yo. Den zai tu ya zai kare zin ba zai den trop lo. Zin do yo ra ga ran so zai sung du sang ya chang ba. Na ya bo de zang zai zin ne nge ba de zang zai ti ni bo sang ya ni chung chung de Sam trop. De ma de chang. 我这要不说这什么都嘛，结把没，结婚呀是等于我说是结的重要有嘛，结把没吧，求就过去两把下来是，我这呢在求口啊，两把下那是，这牛毛嘛多，两把多话，不是热烈了，才当这边这前这位上节过松头，每次见人过了这人就嘛因的是我他来话什么老乡，我的他这里是上节，这牛毛城这你们俩气候呢，听这个上节过松头，每次见过了。就个是了，他在那个，他年头俺那做在那票啊，他牛毛啊了一些啊这个的是，他一些啊是那他别想到想那他适当的是适当那么大面弄一些，我在适当那么大面弄一些中，我真的多少那么大说错一些中，我真的呃呃对么那么大圈一些中。我在长岛那么大切入一些中，我家那么大年米一些。我这里怕那把查送的一些啊，那家伙人啊，我去过来老个哇，我这开始生那这我确就当牛毛可能但是确实小嘛的成呢，牛毛是娘们起呢，牛毛是借用的，别说适当的我这些那这适当是让一毛着吧多，这瞧着行不讲，娘们起用的，可适当可能他瞧吧起嘛呢，适当可能当年啊把车送的是呢，适当那么大面弄一些时候他真正弄这。强是他面弄一些现的个这些当提前把钱嘛到吧，这个东西嘛，说吧，这些当那大面弄一些现的都是身办中，恐怕做不了，真正有啥的哇？啊，沟通啊，
Yeah.
嗯
So, um, something. So then here we are. So and also so it says that so it is important to hold mindfulness without interference of conceptual thoughts. And when the gross and subtle afflictive emotions and thoughts arise, give them no importance and avoid falling under their control, but instead take them onto the path. So now, also here, we shouldn't think that even though we don't give them much importance, it doesn't mean that when a small afflictive emotion arises, that we think that, oh, it's not a big deal, and that we just allow it to remain because we don't think it's a big deal, and then we don't do anything about it. So that, of course, is not good. But so whenever these coarse or subtle afflictive emotions and various thoughts arise, not giving them importance means don't let them take over, don't fall under their control, but you take the reins instead. You take them onto the path and control them. And then it says, in order that all sentient beings equal to space, especially those harboring hatred and attachment, have happiness and become free from suffering and swiftly achieve perfect, unsurpassable, precious enlightenment, cultivate bodhicitta. All those sentient beings who are caught in hatred and attachment so cultivate this bodhicitta mind that wants them to be free from suffering. It's because they suffer because of their afflictive emotions. Because the mind is afflicted, beings constantly run into trouble, and their minds are unhappy and they suffer. So cultivate bodhicitta that wishes them to be happy and attain enlightenment. And then with that enlightened mind, one should clearly establish the Yidam deity, remember the holy guru at the secret place of the great being, the Yidam. So then within that state of bodhicitta, remember the holy guru at the secret place. So now that refers to that place forefinger width below the navel where the three channels converge. So that is where you think of the guru and where within you the yidam, because you are the yidam. And then all afflictive emotions and conceptual thoughts are one's own mind. When abiding in a state of equipoise, realizing that mind, primordially unborn, is the Dharmakaya, then each and every afflictive emotions and conceptual thought will give rise to the inexhaustible wheel of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind activities. Um, so when afflictive emotions arise within the mind, but when you rest within a state of equipoise, that means that when you actually look at them and you see that they do not exist, they're not actually there as things. It is no, we think that no, that this is good or this is that this is bad. This is we have this idea of what they are, but when you actually straight look at them, you see that there's actually nothing that's really there. And seeing that is seeing the Dharmakaya. When you see that there's no afflictive emotion that's really there. And so that is what we call the afflictive emotions. Then from these afflictive emotions then arise, they become the source of this inexhaustible wheel or the qualities of the enlightened body, speech, and mind. So meaning that, so normally we say that from the 5 afflictive emotions arise the 5 wisdoms. And for example, we say that when hatred is purified, hatred then arises as mirror-like wisdom. And when attachment is purified, it arises as discriminating wisdom. And when ignorance is purified, it arises as the Dharma Dhatu wisdom. And when jealousy is purified, it arises as the activity accomplishing wisdom. And when pride is purified, it arises as the equanimity wisdom. So now, having said that, this does not actually mean that the afflictive emotion changes or transforms, actually, so to speak, into wisdom. It's not that first you have an affliction and now it transforms into wisdom. It's not like that, but it's more that you actually see the nature of the affliction. And the affliction itself doesn't actually change, but before we don't really know what it is. So for example, if it's anger or any other affliction, when you actually look at it directly, then you see that it doesn't actually exist as what you thought it is. And when you see it's non-existent, then the anger is gone already. So that is the self-liberation of the anger, because it's naturally not there, because you see it doesn't inherently exist. And so that seeing is what we call the pure form of anger, the mirror-like wisdom. And so that in that case, then when you see its true nature, then the hatred is no longer the ordinary hatred, no engaging or kind of performing its destructive functions, but it becomes the mirror-like wisdom, or the state of the Buddha Vajrasattva. So the same principle is applied to the other afflictions. So.
哦，等等几百度这类，但是哦，但多人他强制性不能两边下过来，那时候他他不他强求 CMG 那么一旦光那么光双地呢，他强制性不能，你强制性不能两边下家，我这个用网是接的，但可能话咱两眼对吧？可能但那个厂在落差双边几百度这，可能话咱两眼的你是有办法，可能让一些咱两眼的一些多半一些总是话他他妈落下来。
And so, in brief, we must simply rest in a state of Mahamudra, and especially when the afflictive emotions arise. And then there's another quote from the Vajra Tantra, which actually already came up yesterday. And it says, "There is no dual existence of samsara and nirvana. When one realizes the nature of samsara, it is said to be nirvana."
哦，嘛，这种多牛毛吧，那把多话抗击将工作强求不相信，往去呢，听你健康那种特别规矩上去推些多吧，当时多被推呢牛毛吧，那么多这张毛嘛，这咱们的规矩上去，上去成来毛不，那把多话，房间没他吧， 那场说，我当时懒惰，我当帮着牛毛那做可是忙呢，提起去，别过去上街之内的忙个的是。可是那他牛毛不在结婚呢，他娘们去同年这，那是娘们去的，对娘们那怕穿着学了学，对娘们去的别，但这个这样多娘们去过学的，怎么样？牛毛往穿着样个可有了哇？我这往穿着样个，这往嘛学了去呢？真的这个这样多娘们去，对娘们空头本着呢，挺是牛毛往出面学的，我这挺就抢着是吧？我这那边的话，帮姐没他哇，帮姐没他是帮过嘛的，他要么可能的，几米可能的，讲的几米能的，一米就我做到几百米比能，一万米比能讲的呢，我真的要么可能千万起头嘛，提个往要么可能几百米的呢，我这帮姐没他哇了是，我这帮姐带过嘛的是，我在这路上呢。
And whatever afflictive emotions and conceptual thoughts arise, they should be within the relative bodhicitta. When that is realized free from birth, cessation, and abiding in the nature of the four kayas, then no matter how many emotions and conceptual thoughts are present, they are the activities of the four kayas and Buddhas, and therefore one should not see these conceptual thoughts as needing to be abandoned. Not from that perspective, then when one is mindful of them, then however many afflicted thoughts and emotions may arise, to the same extent, Buddha activities arise. So there are as many Buddha activities as there are afflicted thoughts. And so if you are able to practice when they arise, then they will all one by one become self-liberated. But so for that, you have to apply a steady state of clear awareness, of mindfulness. Because if not, if you're unmindful, then there is a danger of falling under the power of these afflictions. But if your awareness is stronger, if you sustain awareness, then your practice, your realization grows stronger and stronger. And there is no need to reject the thoughts that arise. Just don't grasp at them, don't hold on to them, and don't let them distract you. Just stay on course with mindfulness without distraction, and then those afflictions can't really do anything.
我这大家当这里做我的我当做啊，对了呗，那罗巴的中都南外面前先把球先那罗巴是，但南外去了这个先着去嘛，我当做先把他先把先先把他点那这先着去的是，先把球先那罗巴中都吧，他真正要抢着去噻，你摸着是结婚了这，别啥些当当是有阵通嘛，那些当是在然后就吃点。我在这些当老样，这说说把狼的，有这个可能那老百姓来要嘛，说说肯定是先狼的，人把的地狼回来。我当天人把就过来是那罗把中多，人把的往出嘛晓得过来，人把的过嘛的是那样的。
Mhm. Mhm.
我听到他的马老乡的是，真的那一趟车上叫他们那么了，他说呗，记得那错是谁了？帮家他你不你是没多把的钱，是那那的，得啥？他那先得啥了？车一那，他车头打完推门推油嘛，用的，是不是？那得啥样都用的，车推门推油的。他叫他们讲这没得通用的，我这次嘛，咱娘们去过的也是啊，我咱地囊的记录蛮不用的，他记别啥记不在穷了。他基本在穷啊，基本能人把修，这钱他吃的呢啊，都不借用这个的，这样都不说透个嘛的。他基本穷啊，哈，你们俩去过了，基本上我看对多，甚至你们俩小菜钱不光没去的，但基本上那是主要是干那才启动呀，需要嘛的。我他都不在东亚钱不借，你用那东亚在了，哈，在都不修，这咱们在送的别干个有往那说。我这都不在了，都不可能我看对多，看对咱们这样两两个在下头去呢。啊，都不提开，他都不在，都其他俺说先打头嘛，他们在都不来，咱们说先，所以他说都不，他说当着去，先说都，咱们跑成这把口钱不在一起，说先东岸这把说不着了，听这把这咋办没办的是说都不在，你们俩的是起头呢，这都不当着看要嘛的，说当着去，忙些都不在，我这样就见到那做事在啦，是见他吃到见人把见上个忙不用了，他说什么你们俩去过的，是啦是。帮家他年不你是没把多吧？帮家他年不你是没被跟他们年来去过，yes。
And then, um, yeah, and so then, we, yeah, so the main point is not to grasp, And regarding that, Tilopa told Naropa, he said, son, it's not the appearances that tie you down, but it's your grasping at them, your fixation to them that ties you down. And therefore cuts through the clinging fixation to appearances. And so it's not that the various appearances around us are the problem. The problem is our fixation to those appearances, the afflictive emotions that we hold on to, for example, anger. And when you see an object or someone that you're angry with, then that triggers the feeling of anger inside of yourself. And that's something that happens only within yourself. So that is really your problem. The other person, the object of your anger, is totally unaffected by that. It is not happening in them. It's happening within you, and not in the other person. So it's totally only related to you. And we need to cut through that fixation in the mind. When that arises, don't let it take a hold of you. And so then it says here, all varied conditions of happiness and suffering related to friends, actions, and so forth should be integrated and realized as non-duality, free of abandonment, and its remedy. And so the varied conditions related to friends and actions. So I guess it also says places, in terms of places and friends. So that means that sometimes, I mean, like friends and places are related. That means that sometimes you are at the same place with a certain person. So the place and the person are related to you. So you are at the same place with a person. And so if you spend a lot of time at the same place with a person, then you will at some point see them do things that you don't like, that you disapprove of. And that is when you need to be mindful. Because if you begin to pick at a negative that you believe you observe, the perceived negativity, then that overwhelms you. And it just becomes unbearable. And also for the good, when you are so happy in a situation with someone, then don't get too excited also. Don't get too overwhelmed by that excitement. And when something bad or painful happens, don't sink into this, and this is just so terrible. But look at the nature of both, the nature of the negative thing that's happening, for example. If you look at it, then it cannot totally control your mind because you're taking back the control. And then you see that what the truth is that for the most part, we are really creating our own suffering. Actually, for the most part, no one else is really, not always, but for the most part, people don't really make you suffer as much as you make yourself suffer. It's mostly something that we make up in our own mind. And if you are able to practice, therefore, that can turn around a lot of negative conditions. But we need to practice in both circumstances, whether they're positive or negative, but also recognize that most negative circumstances are really our own creations. And then when the way we practice with them is neither rejecting them nor accepting them. So we are not rejecting them, and also we are not applying like a certain kind of antidote apart from just being mindful. So.
哦，真的，大这里马尔松的，大天大的牛毛男子气样的，我但牛毛牛奶气下子气，这里马尔气的，他这的娘子气下子的，他这现在有了吧他，我才气，他就他朝鲜忙起是哪里有的，他朝鲜忙是牛了的娘奶气下那个，我听的，我真的天阳是他这里天阳起了个，见的牛毛背后还是拉说吧，康中央，让跟到家堂协当代目，在弄什么说呗，给点点来穷的活动。摩动，当然我但这种用这多，但些当点活动用啥的，多下点的摩动用啥的，第点目点律动用啥，但动作的，当时动作的那玩意，啥子让这那回事？这种我们已经差不多有嘛的事，那他动回来，我说咱们追踪这个，有是那的是的，嘛多起了呢。 te ma yin be chiro na no ji tsewe ke tongdam yo me si so da tongdam yo me si tongdam yo me si da me hi nang ma te la sa zam la no ji si ni jang wa da me hi nang ma te yo re da me hi no ji yo se yo re yes wa da te ma lo shen ti se
So that is the section on taking the afflictive emotions as the path. And then the next section is taking the obstructors. So literally it is the gods and demons as the path. And that is a section that is commonly added toward the end of Mahamudra teachings. And so it begins with whatever conditions arise from without, such as afflicting emotions, obstacles, and so forth, through the interdependence of channels, prana, and mind, arisen through attachment, aversion, and ignorance, appear as male, female, and naga demons. Um, so what that means is that the various appearances of gods and demons are ultimately the manifestations of our own afflictions too. So it is said that from hatred or anger appear the male demons, and from desire appear the female demons, and from ignorance appear the naga spirits. But there's ultimately no real existing separate demon or spirit out there aside from our own mind. It all really is generated from our own mind. And so, therefore, in reality, however, these harm bringers never have any external existence. Such harmful beings manifesting from within non-existence have been our mother since beginningless time. So.
我真的他真的嘛，他强求sem几个人是，可是呢，他一旦他的自己观众的，没些那玩意，他这样可把托马没办呢，没些那玩意，他让诺基听你讲，这样可把他那把青年听你讲，这样可把托马没的嘛意思，嘛起码你身边有嘛拉不啦，嘛一的嘛真的来年别往送的，东儿去牛玩着吧，他东儿去牛玩着呗，身边他们去了，那把没去，让我没，那把起别肯这边那边呢，俺送东儿说牛玩。用现意思，可能他每天强巴兰公车，热啥？公车热啥？现米吧，是热啥？是他那样就弄说，热啥现米呗？哪了那把起吧呢？是话你听你啷当是话他强求sem地过来，是话他强求sem地呢？看出去啷当心，留下差，他说吧，童年啷说俺去你怕原天sem地写了，等人自己拉错，看都把他们去了。多把没把他当过，多把现在是让那人把在偏套兄弟怎么当嘛？这把没被嘛把当呢，没把当呢，那就做呗，身边他们去了，那哪怕当年没身边他们去了，台湾当天，东莞当车，我说那没把让他把做呗，强调人不。说 SMG 是我在强调 SMG 过来，是在马路上这啥，他基本上的，嗯。
So next, therefore, we need to cultivate bodhicitta, compassion for these beings. So recognizing that these harmful beings actually have been my mother since beginningless time, and due to their non-virtuous karma, these mothers are like mad women having no control over their violence toward others. So they have no freedom, no choice. They're totally controlled by their afflictions, and therefore they can't help but harm others, like someone who has lost their mind. They have no control over that. And by the ripening of the karma of harming others, they experience unimaginable suffering in the lower realms, and therefore they wander in samsara endlessly. They have no protectors, refuge, or others to rely upon, so they take their violence onto the path. So take their violence onto the path. So and then yeah. Without exception, freely offer blood, bones, intestines, the power of speech, excellent qualities, mental wisdom, meditative absorption, and so forth. In short, whatever they want or need. So in short, without holding back, you give others whatever they need to benefit. And then in order that all sentient beings, limitless as space, including those who bring harm, should have happiness and be free from suffering and swiftly achieve unsurpassable, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment, cultivate bodhicitta.
我的这当天这些设计有的话，我当这些的这当今那一大人这因此个往做成通过的时候，那一大人这时候的，我那些人家结果呀，我可能的，哎，刚刚问我有的，对我让做这，但是可能他们没人抢着，我对的，俺通红就是的话，上面讲通红嘛，我哈个人通红样，这里有的话的，个生意面来的，我那真通红就是，他我对的在前面的讲究什么，结果嘞是他讲究什么的，是，这里穷的，但你把这一当他讲的话，咱俺对呢，我这一当他。那个那拉让米把这我们是上那是那么他把钱把钱是我的，我那么他把钱把这提过来是啥子几块弄来的。
Mhm. And so then these so-called demons and spirits or demons, harm doers, evil spirits. So actually, we generally we speak about hungry spirits toward whom we feel compassion. So actually, those evil spirits, those demons, really belong to that class of beings. They really are like hungry spirits, and therefore they are deserving of our compassion. We need to have compassion for that because they suffer a lot. And the reason why we see a certain kind of evil spirit is because of the karmic connection that we share with them from previous lives. We do not see every single hungry spirit, every single evil spirit, but we see those with whom we share a karmic connection. And because we share this connection, we need to have compassion for them. So we meet them with a mind of bodhicitta. And then next, it's actually very similar as before. So with that in mind, with bodhicitta in mind, one's body manifests as the Yidam deity, appearing but not inherently existent. Remember the holy Lama in the secret place of the Yidam deity. So that is similar to before.
我真的逻辑东西，但是巧在情报广播的是逻辑电影，让你去多嘛，那结完没吧？是逻辑电影，当不见用嘛？是结完没吧？就可以吧？逻辑抗阳嘛，就是逻辑抗阳超越嘛的，是的。那个从这边我对弄回来了，但这边没那逻辑那就超越嘛。啊，这用他这你送的他才是通回来的，这最没的这种嘛的，这是送那老板意思，但这是送那老板意思。这sem现在是错的玩意思，这 sem 说现在他 sem 东玩意的话，他错那个意思。我总说他真我当我做的，然后在送的电脑会回来着，晓得吧？我有蛮用心，什么做的他当车把意思，这南科技的不是我的，这什么做的南科技的，是俺他上月可能做一了，没家位。下过来，他这次旅行他娘们去下过去，他娘把这下车在前不讲，娘们去过来是绑架你不你是没把他了，这绑架做盘这绑到过嘛是，你不做带到过嘛是，从嘛这上级肯定这个我那在怕，但他这在这这边想的怕他着呀，这trouble的呀有嘛的是，这罗想。
Yeah. So then next is the practice of Mahamudra, and that is so the mind that reflects harmful beings is Dharmakaya, primordially unborn, so neither harmer nor object has existence. So essentially when there is no grasping in your mind, when you don't believe that, oh, this is a demon that's going to harm me, then there's also no harm. But it is because we believe that there is a harm, there's grasping, that we develop more other dualistic thoughts, and that creates the appearance of a harmful demon. Milarepa says that if you see the demon as a demon, the demon becomes harmful. If you see the demon as your own mind, the demon becomes liberated. And then the mind itself is free from all elaboration, non-existent, like the center of space. Maintaining that state, not bringing any thoughts, positive or negative, into the mind, experience the non-duality of abandonment and remedy. So you'd only rest without grasping in a state of Mahamudra, and you do not reject what arises, and you do not apply an antidote toward what arises. You just sustain a state of non-grasping, of Mahamudra. And so then within that, maintaining that state, you let it be as it is without labeling positive or negative thoughts or doing anything to them. And so when there is no grasping in the mind, when there's no fixation in the mind, then a demon has actually no existence on its own at all.
他那他这里嘛，龙江街头，节前头人多的，小姐接不电竞真中秋，让一我没把多久呢，咱们看的，现场这边本期有军通嘛，有啊，没三科上体，这两家在科上在东送上他妈多少呢？科上空的人狗体上的龙的。
There's a quote that seems to be a quote that we already mentioned yesterday. So it's from the Getcha Sutra. The king of the Shakyas realized the non-existent nature of interdependent origination. By realizing the mind as space, he has no fear, even if he sees the hordes of Mara.
他继续没得龙姐有的，开始中了，现在继续没得，那么多给进公布了，是给进公布，这能公布这能这样的我这给公布了是，那么多给进公布了，这那去年银行去做是，这那嘛这有了，这去年银行做是，这那去年银行那做是。他让自动车样，没给我说是自动车，咱这把这样这在人不这边才切个过嘛都是，自动车样没给我说是，那么就去出西边研究的是，那么就去西边研究的是，那么就去上那这有嘛的，我在西边研究的是，我别那是他话了追求啊的，他我说他话车了在别家工大，在我去他们下，他追在来都。
Tu penta nanga trava chesung. Ta
Ale,
di ngat kaya me bacha song di
ale,
dini di parto ko song di rimdo den ramanda ko mendos matia dini di tsarte.
特别他就是没得龙井都是，就是没得这种都是，特别话，可是他好像南坡，
Je nam ta ke.
南坡给进公布了，南坡给进公布了，给进公布是那这样话，公布是公，好，我刚才那公布是那这样快的话，公，那南坡这进公布了，这那去年银行做是这那样，他去年银行做是，去年银行来做是，他那自动车样嘛，我说是自动车，那自动车那这就把这样，让我忍不住这样，咱们这有的话，我就是去个嘛都是自动车样嘛，我说，那么就去那边研究的，是那么就去那边研究的，中多，我在这就那么就去，但这有嘛的，我在那边那是咱那里多，他过来去啊，对东西，但我就是那时候去他们工大的在呢，他过车他用就没什么追的，就相当起给的，我那追嘛的话的。他话了吧，他话了有啊，没事，他把可能追有那个嘛，有啊有嘛的，先满追吧，他换一把西北追样，主要对呀，我但满追的说他换一把哈口个吧，这追穿不着就嘛了，他在咱们的三三通常咱们的才是用个的是，我这对，我这里是破洞磨洞漏洞了说，那把那样，然后去先抽个来先没事是，有没事是，我真的懂了绑架他。帮家没他吧，那是主动把拉送真是多花康这样子了，真的你们都恐怕多花钱是我的，根据去过的是那是主动把这两年青年人呢，上次等这个就到现场去啥做不能用呢，这个现场最近这也不有的是，可是那等这有的人到现场的时候，现场都有些在你们俩期间，讲的全部是内陆港的开上突在种这。当然，内陆港讲的这种最多要嘛，他在这里真的讲的全部都会要空的着特别。我他听的啊，在现场头的呢，然后确诊跟你们来种特别，我听着看啊，现场是现在在帮家人不，你是没被你们来去呢，在现场我们可以这样，那东把就是现场的说了，现场的说的这里呢，你们来旁边着下了啊，骗错，我听着有了吧。
There's a quote by Milarepa. Milarepa said that when the demon of conceptual thought that or the demon the conceptual thought that appears as the demon is exhausted or dissolves into dharmata, into reality itself, then there is no need to drive any demon out there. So there is no need to perform rituals or exorcistic rituals to drive the demons away. There's no need to expel them. And such a yogin who has realized thoughts as dharmakaya is always happy. So then the next in the text, it says, for example, though a confused being perceives a rope as a snake, that perception has no solid existence apart from the rope. But when he sees the rope free from confusion, the snake is absent from the rope. So sometimes maybe when it's dark outside, we see a piece of rope and we mistake it to be a snake. But then when we actually see what it is, we see that that was not actually a snake. It was nothing but a rope. So it is just like that. So likewise, the male, female, and naga demons and so forth, all harmful appearances do not exist apart from Dharmakaya, mind itself. Therefore, without perceiving those demons as something to be abandoned, and while meditating in solitude in the mountains, whenever a conceptual thought of grasping onto a demon arises, carry on integrating and realizing the non-dual nature of abandonment and remedy. So now here, and then it goes on, yeah. So likewise, if the yogi is tortured by sickness, suffering, or pain, and still the mind is naturally completely pure. Maybe we didn't read that far. So here the point of this section here is that when you perceive when you do not perceive a demon as something to be abandoned, then this perception of a demon actually becomes an enhancement to your practice. So what this also means is we are taking fear as the path. So sometimes fear can actually be conducive for our practice, because when we are really frightened by a perception of a demon, then we may try even harder to come straight to the natural state of the mind and come to Mahamudra, because we feel afraid. So we make an extra effort in our practice. And when you make that effort, then you are not grasping at that demon, and therefore that demon will actually dissolve. And this is how fear can actually support or improve our practice.
어, 이게마데 지지만라레 방에 종쇼고 정말 총롱 세트라 형도와 정말 총롱. 정말 총롱 쇼데 제 공용리 뭐 쇼고사. 제 치료제 통도와. 치료제 통도에네 다 사마다 요 말아 공 사마 요 말에. 네 매당야 신임면도 추면도. 晓得，他就是么的哦，他这些年那老子当前炒啥的，他的现周过啥的，让他现周送了吧，他现周在送的停在龙嘴来么多，龙嘴那不就呢？龙嘴加表现出来，不就可能热锅的龙看到，热锅送的现龙看到，晓得这，他就是么了我嘛这出这个人，他说当时老东他们都让的，他热锅呢热些现锅现一切这把你给领到。 这里就么了呗，那批长毛去，过就我了的是把全把拖上来的下说，全把的拖上下，这里做在全把的速度在你妈的这样的，那批抽的下很多，下这里也多在刚刚从那热锅天刚他那多现在刚拖的多，那热锅他妈开在空的呢，在什么就我的使用多的，但我是那多这个来地里的都跑红这个。 都跑公这个的国上，但那么程度国上，但他马话的，其实我说真是对他修动搞完了这，这种国这浪，这浪很多真的马话性格搞我是切的，但是现在我们那往的下马话，过去看那个穷当啊，这人不我呀，就在看的，这样接到一些穷呢，那俺你吃完没事了，但那往的这里下的好了，我在那往下，这里把那在送，对，可能得啥差不多那他，阿啥啦，真的，俺这往在多。 俺这说的真，这个没得当学啥的，没得在当，这个别讲的，这个穷的有些了，你穷学啥了？你
确实，确实，
这个穷嘛也学不好，你穷熊看的，这个没得当，这个我别讲先把这落实，他这里头啥了，就没得的噻，就没得呀，当年那的多把是当嘛用，这多把是当的，要不买来上多下，多把在当对他弄的。 你忙送的，他俺有点东强多，啊啥的，
Mhm.
这开始的咱们这要就是么的，给气呢我，在给气的期间的，工作别工作啥，那把点，工作那把点说自己忙不起的话，工作给。
Mhm.
他就是么的，哦，他是你东把你，那边个三东把你，我是东把你，是我这种东把你，数字给他俺那把你特别美，他能三的，他在大卫跟俺娘俩去的，俺走的，他也推广经常从那来都，俺当初给钱去过是。这俩真是的工作相当的，是比相当的是的，这弄错么着是，也没把钱的话，他就娘们是，他就当年娘们亲，等这左右什么了吧？
Mhm.
啊，当然中的，
Mhm. There's a story Milarepa, and at that time he was staying in Dharma Churung, and he was at that time he secluded himself in this cave, and he never really left out to go anywhere at that point. And he was at a point where he had no more food, he had no water, and he had no firewood. He had no wood to make a fire. And so he thought to himself, maybe I've gone a bit too far with renouncing everything. Maybe I should get at least some wood. And so he went out to fetch some wood. And as he was looking for wood, the wind started to blow. And as he was collecting the wood, his hands were off his rope, so the wind blew off his rope. And when he was trying to catch his rope, he dropped the wood, and so he couldn't hold on to the wood and the rope, and he became overcome with grief, and he thought, here I am, this yogin, having gone this path, and how come I'm in such a state now, that I'm trying to hold on to my rope and holding on to the wood so desperately. And then he fell unconscious in the storm because he was also quite emaciated and weak. So he fell unconscious, and when he woke up, the weather became warm, it was already warm, so he woke up in the sun and he saw his rope was hanging on a tree branch. And when he saw that, he was overcome with sadness and thought of what has become of me as a practitioner. And so he was sitting on a boulder, singing a song of remembering and missing his guru Marpa. So he was supplicating to Marpa. And Marpa then appeared to him as a vision on a white snow lion. And he said to him, "Why are you so sad? What makes you call upon me today like that? I'm never really gone. I'm here with you." And the Milarepa felt encouraged, and he returned back to his cave. And when he came to his cave, he found that there were five atsaras, so the kind of five demons. There are five demons in his cave. And they made themselves comfortable in the cave. So one of them was making a fire, and one was reading a book, and one was teaching the Dharma, and two were listening to those teachings. And Milarepa thought that, what am I going to do with these demons? I've done all this practice, and here I am chased by demons. I should practice some repelling. So he practiced some repelling,
我
but
俺
just
那有人不第一天多把钱，
mm,
马上上的多把钱多，
Uh, so he thought, I've been here for such a long time, and I've never actually praised them. So that was the first one. I've never praised them. So maybe I should praise them, and then they will go away. They'd be happy. So, but when he did that, then the five turned into seven demons. And then he wanted, so what should I do? So then maybe I should do some repelling. And so then he tried to perform some kind of obstacle dispelling ritual. And when he did that, they got really angry, and then they really multiplied. And then he remembered what the guru told him, that within the empty nature of the mind, no one can harm you. So I just need to be in that space. So then he entered that space, the view, the empty nature of the mind. And then from within that view, he told them, why don't you stay here tonight? Stay here and let's talk. And when he said that to them, the demons suddenly were really shocked and afraid. And then one by one, they dissolved into each other and then totally disappeared. So it shows that in the state of emptiness, there actually is no real demon.
다들 지테네 다다다가 저 드리 마스톤도 다들 다들 드리노 나사 남치리야 안 나타 나사를 남치리야 다다다는 제 산지 남치야 지단들이 만나서라 냠냐치야 지지 我这对他那叫吧，实际上对那叫吧，这你当中啊，那中餐吧，瞧讲，这边剧场三九，三九三不上去，那把差吧，那没来见这个，大他先去对起，遇到过噻，那他牙是吧？遇到过的那多差这个的，但没到过噻，那他没到过，他那点适当这个，还是嘛，这点点某这个吧。我这对双巴拉，恰当毛上给那说是这些是。这年龄学生在现在讲学，年龄学生讲学这个，现在在讲学班上，年班的空着学，讲学的别个，那2年long嘛，你别个，那边现在留多米把上，也用上了，图上跟对边我那的，但我这问俺说后边路说，但弄这边看上那是什么就是那学了，差当这班多差，弄堂生理协当。
Disco,差当。
我在台上多，街上台上多，别想。
对，哦，OK。
大当吃饭多吃，弄当生理会看，弄当生理协当这穷日子，我在会看咱对吧？穷日得么的让一日子，我在这街上要做后边去面，但弄这会看做那蛮多人那是要嘛来不然他真这么吃药噻。
So up until this point was taking the afflictions as a path, and next is taking sickness as the path. And so it says, likewise, if the yogin is tortured by sickness, suffering, or pain, still the mind is naturally completely pure through although conditioned by ignorance, holding to self and others, and manifesting the 3 poisons, attachment, aversion, and ignorance, of seeing objects as beautiful and ugly. So at times we are tortured by sickness and pain, and the various sicknesses that we experience are related to the 3 afflictive emotions, the 3 poisons, and due to that, we know with anger, for example, we see objects as ugly. With attachment, due to attachment, we see them as very beautiful. And when we are indifferent about an object, then that is due to ignorance. And that is because we see things that way because we have those 3 afflictive emotions. And then through the latter influences, one creates karma. So through the influence of those 3 poisons, one creates karma, which in turn ripens. And then these sicknesses abide in the upper, middle, and lower parts of the body, and in the right, left, and middle, and are in the nature of the 3 poisons. So essentially, this is just saying that the 3 afflictive emotions are related to the 3 main types of disease or disorders, according to the Tibetan medical tradition. And so attachment, so that's bile, phlegm, and wind. And so attachment causes bile and blood sickness. Hatred causes wind and cold sicknesses. And ignorance gives rise to phlegm ailments. So the various sicknesses are all under in either one of those 3 categories. So any sickness either is a wind, a bile, or a phlegm disorder, and these 3 are related to the 3 poisons.
真的，大家在面别看对吧？呢，从呢面角上面把这种，咱说面把这用呢，他们这个的是，没嘛这种这从咱个做后面，没得不多年些到要紧嘛的，这东这人不这边头这东西现在就是怕这样，去他腾出去个的是，去把那是，去把那说去个的是，他腾就当咱这把这都就这当，看着我们些说话，就当这咋把出去这种有了，咋把出去，他就把他说就这样有了。 就这样子，他是就把七八，他说开始起头是呢，就弄学生呢，他这马龙把他说把 C 到怎么弄，同样的这样，同样的这样，把这呢把这人他的某人同样的这样，
Mhm.
把拉把七八没把手拉成，没把手下来，插后去了先把松头，插后去了再把那个 C 口事情就把它说开，我这里就把谁呢？对，平常就把谁对他很多都是呢，能把别kontrol啥的。해당 침보네 맞아 침보네 어따티 해당하는 맞아서 오나 되는 다티 빠지네 다 인제 랭칸다도 다 초자 냐베케 랭칸조서 라트 나이 요레 스타팅상 요 텐주zam도 티 조은지냐다 름로르미야 요라서 소케 어따 텐주 요레 스네바서 다 네바서 전 통호的吧在黑当浪的人是就控制啥的人是俺们手机呢他当没过去怕当没咋看你俺说那没看当多俺谁当多少俺谁是当 어때는 그래서 그래서 나 내봐도 그 들어와서 그 이래로 그랬어. 그 바가 언제 시간 내배 들어와서 아래로 그랬어. 어다 된들한테 뒤로 잠들도 좀 말했어. 주로 노스스. 주로 노스스. 오늘 진짜 잠는 게 되는데 이제 뒤로면 뒤로 말했어. 다다 이제 님중을 그 이제 님중을 상태로 시행하시 좋은 거 메시면 이제 오늘은 다 잠는 게强把人家这说去的呢，真的盘头过嘛，在西门对头过嘛，那种是吧？
Um, and then meine
上来，
physician,
不上来没形容那有的，
alles klar.
嗯嗯，
When a physician looks at the condition of the four elements and prescribes medicine, or a seer performs divinations, explains which entities are harming, and performs rituals. And so Ruben says that this seems to be very specific to Tibetan. It seems that only really in a Tibetan tradition we do these kind of things. But in any case, this is like stopping up smoke at the top of the chimney instead of putting out a fire below. It's also like cutting a shadow instead of cutting the real body. And so regarding that, actually, Zapata Rinpoche had said that that's from the words of my perfect teacher and text. And he was commenting on nowadays church practitioners. And so he said that nowadays church practitioners, they go around trying to kill those demons and slay them and beat them and send them away and exorcise them and annihilate them. And they think that what they're doing when they practice church is that they think that they are engaging in a wrathful activity, when actually that is not what it is meant to be. They go around and turning out and being even angry and proud than before. So because they want to appear as very magnificent and full of power to send away those evil spirits. And the way they appear is more like the henchmen of Yama in hell. So they go around like these henchmen of Yama, performing various rituals and exorcisms and so forth to send away demons very wrathfully. But then actually that is not really accomplished. Maybe the most that they accomplish is with their like bulging eyes and gaping mouth is that maybe by kind of beating around, they're tearing apart the robes of the sick person they're trying to help. But they're not really accomplishing anything else. So that tradition is clearly mistaken, because the only true way to send away, to tame a demon is through love and compassion. And maybe with such intimidating conduct, you may be able to scare off a very small, timid demon. But the real demons will not be faced by that show of wrath. The actual demons can only be tamed with a mind of love and compassion.
他就当陈州开些用多，陈州前头人从就当陈州开些咱那把动这些那都是从这些，这就那都是动呢。 오늘 지는 언제 바보지 가로지 내가 다른 나가게 되니까 너무 내가 알아들이 말해.
Uh, so now having said that they tears the robes of the sick person, that means that often, like what Drupan also said, I've seen that those practitioners they hit the sick person they're trying to help, because they say that this is what kind of drives out the demon, but really the no demon is actually driven out. It's just the sick person is sicker after that.
누구도 알아. 가장 양자도
The
코로나 나디 이거 티가 다른 누군데
mm,
누구도 알아.
yeah, so it's just that they're just creating pain upon pain, like more pain.
어, 근데 다들 그 정도 같아. tabje tuba masi na karkun ke buban go ba am sa si chang lo sa lo chin ye lo mi ten wa
Oh.
tabje tuba masi na karkun ke buba go bas wa da tab tuba pa so go res tab tuba masi karkun te ga na pen to yo ma de zong ko sa da ze zo se te da nga ra so nin zi ya sam lo je yo ran zi ba pa ju go res zi ba ti ke zel nen na sa ma ndo ge so ju ba da chma dong wan da se 但所在的没在出国，所把没把所长的怕起码东京偏头行业要嘛哇，我真正掐住的，怕这是东京呢，我真正就在旅游业呢，对吧？没把旅哪啦，让伊嘛着吧，旅送完一遍，旅游就是在旅的就业旅碰过热死，没一心就在那嘛了，都会去南头在旅送的有人啊，南头人在旅差不多的，我天就旅送完一把，旅的我南头送的，是马头他们旅的。都没法送切吧，就你戳吧，有没事，我的你的戳的了，我那些有嘛的是有可能带进了，大些就那你的戳不得有嘛的吧，我那晚这边想的你，我那晚这样想的有了很，那晚这样想的，当然都娘们去过去了，但那晚这样想的可的是呢，那晚这样想的我打在哪的，别讲的手可能讲我手提去怎么当呢，提纲让娘们去的呢，这手怎么其他同样没人差了吧，手都自己去其他没人，这差了的。我真的见个那种那晚这边想的，见个那种他车线是那晚这边想的，见个这晚个那种他车吧，东把你那边写是，那我到这马路上的。
So, so what we need to cut through is the grasping at the demon and then the sickness, and the more we grasp, the more harm we will experience. So, for example, like when you try to stop the smoke at the top of the chimney instead of putting out the fire below. So you just try to stop the smoke on top of the chimney, it won't really help. So likewise, we have to eliminate the grasping at the root. And so the body is composed of a collection of the four elements and is held by conceptual thoughts which do not exist inherently. So the so the body does not exist inherently. If we actually now think about the sickness and we examine the sickness, then actually, if you really look, where is it? Where is that pain? There's no real place it abides or it has arisen from, abides, and that it will go to. So it has no real existence at all. And you see that when you look at its true nature. And so since the body does not primordially exist, uh, how can it have characteristics of existence? So since the body is empty and does not inherently exist, when you then look at the pain experienced in the body, it also is really related to the mind, to the conceptual thought. When you look at it and can't find it, and sometimes there is even the feeling of not even perceiving the pain at all.
근데 다 가르 나도록 선 나도 집 봤어. 똑같 나도 요래서 나와 나 이제 당직 똑같다. 나도 나자 송디디 배창다 나가서 나도 용나. 그 나자 들어라데 다 나도 남자 노동까지 면 나자 치에도 면도. 다这里在나자听我大这是你们俩的奇葩，这是나자他看中都在，那样的奇多些。나자这是新奇了没了，나자他怕的是差从来的。你这上得来做这些那些没了，常常听着强多。 我这真挺强着说的，他你的东儿这边多话听你啷当时我但这边多话才啷当过的是你看东儿这多年就有了，他在哪一，这在啷当过的是，我他是把路上那样。
Um, and so then when you look at what actually is it that is sick, you see that so the mind that grasps sickness, the mind itself is free from birth, cessation, and abiding, and rather it abides primordially within emptiness. So one's sickness is the sickness of the conceptual thought. So when you actually normally when we think that I'm so sick, it's really what is really sick. The sickness really is that self-grasping, is thinking of me. I'm so sick. And so much pain. And when you hold on to that, then it will only get worse and worse. The suffering will only get worse and worse. But when you look into its nature, then you can't actually find anything there. You can't identify the pain, the sickness. So the sickness is therefore just a conceptual thought. And so because of that, we this is how we take holding take sickness onto the past. So it is by recognizing that its lack of inherent existence by looking directly at it.
哦，他在旅途就他做当地设的呢，但马些生用药了下，等于他当地没来看旅去过的呢，他旅的你啥话没别多次亲戚了，旅程嘛，他多次就弄对人物的，他做就难的旅了去给了吧，确实，我这就弄对那些，但多次亲戚拉的，亲戚拉的顶住咱马旅吧，脑筋做呗，但让老百姓呢，那才兄弟，你老百姓送那才做呗，身边他们去了，多半没把钱拿死。那对话堂点，是往他几块的，他多半没钱拿的呢，对话堂点，东二堂去呢。有时当然没办法做吧，强求人不是拖不了其他什么 CMG，真的，CMG 这类全部有旅也当他哪让一米八公，这边去用期末，但是用期末是那上内生这块的，我这里旅，这往也不，那么这光过来，我从那从那边这就从那边下去，我到这马路上了，大几块的么的。
Mm. Um, yeah. And so then it says, "Thus take the holding of sickness and suffering onto the past, transform this body through the blessings, the undefiled ambrosia." So what this means is that so the way you practice with that is to make the body an offering. So you offer the body like nectar. So that is the essence of the church practice. You're offering up your body without holding anything back. So give all to sentient beings, including harm bringers, leaving nothing remaining. So leaving nothing remaining means not holding anything back, give them everything. And that is the same as before with the same intention, in order that sentient beings have happiness, be freed from suffering, and swiftly attain precious, perfect, unsurpassable, complete enlightenment. Cultivate bodhicitta. So you cultivate bodhicitta. And with that in mind, visualize yourself as the yidam, appearance, and emptiness inseparable. So inseparable from the emptiness, the great mother, and abide in one pointed equipoise in the body, speech, and mind of the guru in the secret place. Hva parto losong?
我打算是这个，我从头那边再接那边下，
Yeah,
知道吧？是。
yeah, okay.
哦，
Yes.
对，我他这里嘛，他瞧在情况中在那，然后你提你们俩去过，你提你让xem到嘛呢？他你的让一的xem点呢，他那啥子用过了，俺说，如果可能那啥子用到要嘛，那说 xem 是几把的点穷过了，俺说，我听对的呢，让 xem 的几把米吧，求就个做把他们去趟，但是求就个嘞，从这做把他们去，从啊当这把他们去做把他们去，咋当他们去趟车的嘞？我在多边村那啥，是不是？现在听说在多少那在你们俩去的对，咋听说从这的做把车的这那啥是不是？现在呢，去把这些就连眼花卡，他把就是我他听说那啥在收钱呢，他们在你们俩去投去呢，在听你们俩去下收钱的这个人了，听那眼别看花卡，他说怕他把就是个意思。我谈这个意思，但你们俩开始去那这花卡，他个在听那啥子就讲你们两眼把点穷学的。我这也怕他这个的，这里你们俩提起点呢，那啥子就不查呀的，对另外就是把他送的那啥子查这个的哇，我这里来穷个的也是， 白那是弄芝麻酱煮呢，去芝麻那弄用嘛的弄它吧，这些的，等你帮了没吧？让中看姐姐别去求个多呗是，帮家你不你是没吧？就类似他，我真的特别想到现在插话情报了在宣传的呢，他不插话特别忙不嘛，那弄通红的是，这里把卡里和他着的是，那那一他不得收钱的着这个的是，娘俩才对这信用的这那才能一直让他帮了没平安。让中现在他先不要让中看姐姐呗。一些求可多是吧？在帮忙没让中那些求可多有的是，在帮家的年不你是没吧？就是在帮家才有嘛的，那咋帮助过嘛的是？在年不才有嘛的是，年不点都过嘛的是，那挺难的。这年们提高了，他晓得进步年们在那，他提高了的，中国过的是中那咋子怕？今天自己没了，产品的路做压力，年们去控盘做压。我在今年看情况呢，提高年们去投票，他才能用个的。今年几趟当初娘俩去下，所有这今年吧，吃对娘俩去托，那我那他娘俩去托吧的，他今年吧吃用对这娘俩去他去嘛托，那他娘俩的事情么子，娘俩等去他两米不大的，这样对我来说，他今年吧吃用对，咱那才让我他在这个我咱他说两用对真的去完让我有了，他说两用对，在娘俩的去托，那我那他在娘俩的是等去托不大的话。
Mm. And then, so then next we come to the Mahamudra practice. Um, so after that, when one realizes one's mind, the Dharmakaya, primordially unborn and free from elaborations, one realizes the actual nature of sickness. And the degree of sickness becomes the cause for purifying one's propensity toward non-virtuous karma. So that means is that uh, so that degree here of sickness is the cause of purifying karma. So depending on the kind of karma that one has accumulated, that one experiences a certain level of sickness. But the sickness itself becomes the very cause for purifying that karma because the sickness is the result of that karma. So by experiencing it, it purifies itself. It becomes purified. So there are certain karmic imprints, tendencies, negative karma that was created that has led to that sickness. And so then through the experience of the sickness, it actually becomes purified. And then if one at that time recognizes that and makes a stronger effort in the practice, then it actually becomes an enhancement to the practice. And so, for example, when a pot is washed and the dirt inside surfaces, one knows that the pot is clean. And similarly, realizing sickness free from acceptance and abandonment is the self-arising co-emergent wisdom dharmakaya. So sometimes what that means is that sometimes so when a pot is washed, when you wash a very dirty pot, then at first all of the dirt inside comes to the surface. So it appears more dirty than before because it comes to the surface. And so sometimes when you make a stronger effort in the practice, when you are sick, for example, then you might even experience greater sickness for a time being before it becomes completely purified. But then it becomes completely purified and the sickness is gone. And so then when it's like a cleaning that pot. And when the sickness is then met with your practice, that is without accepting or rejecting what arises, and you just abide within a state of Mahamudra, within emptiness, then it arises as the co-emergent wisdom or the Dharmakaya. So sometimes, in other words, it may seem to look worse in the beginning, more discomfort, but that also means that all the dirt is now coming off. And so in the same way, when we practice, we don't actually need to reject what arises or apply any antidotes. You just rest in Mahamudra, and then the practice of purifying basically carries itself. So it happens on its own by you resting in Mahamudra. There's nothing else you do to purify it. It just takes its own course as you rest in Mahamudra. and you let the practice take a hold of you by just resting in the nature of the mind. All these negative conditions and karma just naturally become more and more purified, and everything becomes practice. And so, when the good and the bad that arise, whether it is a positive or negative condition, you should hold steady in your practice. And actually, they said that it is in those negative, in these difficult circumstances, that is when you actually know where you're really at in your practice. Because if you're able to practice and hold steady in those difficult, very difficult situations and continue to practice, then it is a sign that you have really reached a certain level of practice. But otherwise, if you are generally a good practitioner, but then in the face of hardships, you're not able to stay course and you're overwhelmed, then it is a sign that you still lack some depth in practice. So our real state of practice is really revealed to us in the face of difficult times.
他就让人说在哪站的时候，那人说哪里的，他在想不过的时候，那在都叫的，上帝的那个的这块的，是都怎么样嘛的，他这个的是，
Isso, na Titiação.
我人说在哪都那了哇，
Uhum.
他那站的修在南头上把三八九七生修的掐，他是全都手动就没都开用的上，但是地道呢，那在都怎么样嘛，他的第三那才是年年的起头呢。另一把这种怕他，第是那啥子了，第是抽穷，另一把这种他，这里那啥子就查下，是偏托自己形容自己的吧。
Uh, for example, when you're sick and you have no control at that time, then you will just be lost in that state, and you will think that I'm so sick, I'm in so much pain. This is so terrible that this is happening to me. You lose all your courage. You no, you're about to give up, and you think that I just can't take it. So now, if you keep thinking that way, then the sickness will likely just get worse. Your situation will likely just get worse. Um, and and on the other hand, if you're able to practice a little at that time, then you can see it as a purification of karma. And also karma will purify itself much quicker. The pain will be less intense, and the sickness may be healed much quicker. So there is really a difference in how you approach it.
他这里咱那里嘛，他龙江街多啥来，他们是全部啥来，是嘎尔瓦那边门边土博样，罗麦街偏门把西瓦，罗麦街嘛，他偏西瓦达是，他因可别好像土博样，我当时都别个这西中多，我他这样子的，他嘎尔瓦的门把土博街嘛，那他全面的门麦街把那天门把没把抢着回来是。北京都让但先可把他们的咋的，把下头不节约了，但让先给那路多那把下子做，那把新这个的是我的，这种说啥吧
Mhm. There's a quote next by the Brahmin Saraha. The darkness which has existed for many aeons is dispelled by one instant of light. Likewise, all the dense propensities of samsara are dispelled in an instant by realizing one's own mind. So just like an endless darkness is dispelled the very moment you turn on the light, and similarly, even though we have accumulated karmic imprints, these patterns for an endless time, since beginningless time in samsara, even though these patterns are very thick and heavy, the moment you truly see the nature of the mind, they are gone in that moment naturally.
真的他这里嘛，就你当东儿生康穷样是的，你东儿生满堂是几千那在这样式的，几千那个嘛在差价呀，按照我面听那差价呀，按照买菜小买小呀，按照个多哈，他说几来学生满堂几来啊。
Oh, that's so.
差大的呀，按照我几千的买菜买小呀，按照我多少个嘛好，有了哇，我这次真的来学生满堂几十。 接了热土没加是，我的热土没加是，我到这面的这座查过么个说大过的。好，你买那他啥票什么？你们俩请不是听那，但是就讲了，这没事马上那哈，考虑瞧写就嘛哇，这考
嗯
虑那这你嘛这做大个写哪些？上面
，no，
你们俩这做大个写哪些？开始哪些？个
嗯
你们俩那个了，没得前几面上个贴从去那面来在请着个了哇，
嗯
那种这个提个啥？大个贴从面来起特别面写就嘛了哇，这
嗯
些那好面啥个呢？最近的也是个了，上去就点对了，你嘛明白点了不有了哇？
嗯
团队这说大过，但说去见还是特别的。见了这头没讲话，是你绑架他，你不你是没把多把的讲，是他绑架你不你是没的，你们俩才拿起过的，是他这才拿几个的。
嗯。
嗯，
And then, though one may experience sickness and suffering without depending on medications and treatment, one should realize the non-duality of abandonment and remedy. So, so don't, so even though one experiences as sickness, and so without depending on medication and treatment, so it seems that the literal word used here is a kind of a traditional old Tibetan medical term, and that is so the two things, drawing or kind of letting blood flow, drawing blood. Sometimes you would let somebody bleed a bit to get the old blood out, the stale blood out. So bleeding was one treatment, and the other one was burning. So there's some heat application that is another form of treatment. So without relying on that, so literally it's without relying on like bleeding someone and burning treatments. The point is to recognize the non-duality of attachment and remedy. So, traditionally, as a practitioner, one would not go back to these traditional treatments like bleeding or burning, but one would think whatever happens happens. If I die, I die, and then one would accept that without any doubts in one's mind. And if that is the case, then that is the route, the ideal route to go. But then nowadays, especially this kind of confidence is quite rare. And if one is not entirely free of doubts, one doesn't have that level of certainty, whatever happens, happens. And then in that case, it might still be better to take some medicine when necessary. So there's nothing wrong with receiving some treatment. Actually, the Buddha himself, he also taught about medicine. So there are healing practices taught by the Buddha. And in that way, the Buddha also showed that there is a time for relying on medicine.
哦，真的，我到这里嘛挺久的的，他呢，他挺久的，那七万你米过嘛？但七万你们俩去下是那，那七万那么解释呢？我到这里，七万你米你们是那把那是的，
Mm.
嗯。
And then we come to the next section, and that is taking death onto the path, the practice of the non-duality of death.
哦，这道你们是两百个，明天见那做事情，但俺做今天的呢，这样专门的这个是吧？这样专门的这个长期有的眼巴有的，专门的这样长期毛毛这个的，这他妈的，但你们两个是搞的什么？那咱起码这里是啊，钱不着我俺说，但赔钱见钱学是强着的，没谁拿了，起这里我这起码的这样见南上这图片搞的可不有的意思。这样对这俺说，他钱的拿了可见商业可能什么，你们俩启动，但启动刚刚其他没的是，恰是啥了哇？基本其实之前听你南子区别就是交流碰碰的你多的羊绒，多的羊绒，多的羊绒的是咋个来了？多的羊绒的七边几块两万米，我他交流碰碰多是怕有别个下的，我他有那，他七边几块两万米是，我听就这么多。我就是么了，前面因为三年我讲前面几块两万米就是有了听着么？他两万米，三年六天因为我讲前面几块两万米是真多，我听有点啥，但两万米是现在那现在相当没的是的，他那个说讲嘛不在两万气温都现在在相当没的是，我两万米是没种是，我在听啥的。
So taking death onto the path is next. And so starts with by integrating various unfavorable conditions onto the path. the five aggregates of this illusory body, whether or not left behind, will not experience the fear of death. So integrating the various unfavorable conditions onto the path. So in our lifetimes, we encounter all sorts of situations. We experience all kinds of good and bad things in our life. And we have to practice with all of it, the good and the bad, the significant and insignificant, the big and the small, everything. Because so the greatest, the biggest event of our life is really the moment of death. So that's kind of that's really the most like overwhelming event. There's no greater event in terms of like magnitude than death. Every other experience that we deal with in our life, and no matter how difficult, pales when we compare it to the magnitude of what we experience at the time of death. So that is definitely the most significant event of our life. And so therefore, to be prepared for that, now while we are alive, we have to practice with every condition that arises, every smaller condition that arises in our life. Because if we practice with anything that arises, all the different conditions, the good and the bad, then that makes it that much easier to dealing with the great event of our actual death. And so then the aggregates of this illusory body will then not experience the fear of death. So now here regarding that, Milarepa said that when you rest within the innate natural state of mind, there's no fear of death in that state. So you practice that by practicing when you encounter various difficulties, many circumstances, and when you habituate to that practice, you habituating to experiencing less fear at the time of your actual death.
Ja, antar jag alltså har sen stanna karma tjusas.
Shall we take like a 10-minute break?
Ja.
Thank you.
我家过呢。
Again,
Ah.
say again, maybe.
Ja.
I had you muted, sound was off.
Så.
I turned the sound up. Can you say that again?
No, det är säkert. 야, 되네. 달래 와. 이나.
Also,
음.
die Amtsstelle, die so in
음.
Lobtrosen. Okay.
되네. 다 자다데 라브송 되네. 다基本上我们就真正中间查大开多换中啊，去查大多换开的阶段见面多是吧？这外面把它多个来是，很多那我发了没就，是很多那我发了没就把穷个来是，很多那我他那里多他光被穷你去穷你去把多些那他光的了，他是这我当说在那路小在进步来说光的了这一路啊，我在穷你当时六千那么就基本前边穷你把去年嘛，提年一米多吧呢，是吧？在身边草嘛，有别个，在这个都西区我这就有哇，是前个里那个那些的我这西区我这一米多吧呢是，别讲的像那正当的是，是就那推荐跟就那推荐大巴掌，就这个那么浪的一米确吧是，这边没把就哈嘛就把一百是我的，我这就那跟大巴这当。dawan sen sen wata xaado riskal wendu tene nam lang du sejiro nam lang hu da lang du ti farka al mamba yo mar sen na ji ta da nyamna chi de ta ta na do da nyamna ya bo mo na ta de king do da nyamna chi de xiao da qin bo la so so nyamna chi de le se zang chi we ga sa wo se se xia rong ti ni bo ye me ba se cha song de chi ba chu sang ji ta la pyo sa wa这盘动周国是什么？那盘动每一次拉多才盘动那我们就是，盘动没就是。
And so then continuing on, then by realizing the conceptual thoughts of the gross and subtle four elements within the unborn, one will not be obstructed by the appearance of the bardo. And yeah, so first that. So the practice that we do now, now specifically the practice of Mahamudra and the resting in the natural state of the mind, that is directly related to the bardo of dharmata, or the bardo of reality when we die, which is the first bardo that one experiences after death. So that is where the practice of Mahamudra comes in. And so then when one realizes the inseparable nature of dharmata, the mother luminosity of all sentient beings and those who are habituated to the practice of dharmata, one is liberated like the full moon rising, so that dusk and dawn are illumined without gap. So when so we speak about the clear light, the luminosity that we recognize through our practice, and then after death, it is said that the basic clear light appears. So when we have practiced the clear light during our lifetime, we recognize the basic clear light of our mind after death. And then that's what we call the two kinds of the clear light is merging. So we are merging with the clear light at death. And so that is similar. So that's this the rising of dusk and dawn are illumined without gap. So that is similar to this experience of clear light there is similar to the brightness of the full moon day. So on the 15th day of the Tibetan calendar, there's the full moon. And on the full moon, the moon is very bright and clear. And so up until the morning of the dawn of the 16th day, so the night of the 15th to the 16th, there is no trace of darkness at all. So there's complete illumination. So that's the meaning of illumination without gap here. And so that is the experience of clear light after death. And so now if we practice well, if you practice Mahamudra and luminosity, the nature of the mind beforehand, then at the time of death, you recognize that. And then that is what we call attaining enlightenment as the Dharmakaya at death. So here you're merging with that luminosity, you're merging with the Dharmakaya and attain enlightenment at the moment of death. And so in other words, in that case, you will not actually have to go on to the bardo. So in that case, there is no real bardo then.
我真的我大家当个做西课，是的你考虑那小个的那个罗，当个做我生投票嘛了没？我你小的考虑小个的做，大家当生前做长嘛小个的去的，但是那在两年前有人我现在这是空气的，这西的这是有人做我写投票啥么？那个生前长嘛有人不小个的，我写嘛投吧去，我真的我写投票嘛了。
So there is this basic clear light that manifests at the time of death or after death. And that clear light, this basic clear light, also appears when we sleep. It is just that we don't recognize it normally. For the most part, most beings never recognize that. Just if we have practiced that for a long time, then also it will extend itself. So at the time of death, then it will last longer. So normally it's like a flash of an instant after death for most beings who have no habit, and they won't recognize that because it just flashes by in a millisecond. But for those who have habituated, for them it lasts longer, so they have more chance of recognizing it. But it does arise for everyone, for every being. It is just that we don't recognize it because it flashes by in a fraction of a second. But if we have habituated and we recognize it, then we can become liberated.
他考虑起过来，现在是当做绿，如果生给年他起来，生给年他现在学也把哪怕一般准备要去讲吧，哪怕讲吧，用不讲嘛，哪怕用把起我成都着啊，生给年他上级重点的，样子人的提中国弄在着哇。我年他起来，7就没吧，7就没吧，7万这边多花成年了，3、7万，7就没边7万这样，这边在大国学嘛的，生活从这边在国学嘛的。7万怎么呢？但7万在送的那动画片，我往下说7万，当然现在个的上边没些动画有的，俺查有的，当然了，现在都开始那种，我等于在忙不起有了吧？我这有的，但7万这边能做的话，当这是当然。这旅龙就给别早啊，他们多半没把那么光脚小是当时，当然个旅龙就给别早啊，可能那上嘛，他光脚上怕确保不像那这个，所以我在这样，他强奸计算的，我听着我那也会有嘛的，强奸计算的，我听着用那怕当的这强奸出不了。我真的我咋成这人？我真的哪怕当他那里马几块的，他咋的样啊？点样是那样子的。哪怕当年被生前他们去对话当的，东安长车，要是哪能没把样差不多被强求人过去，跑把下咱们3G，我真的当3G 才都这里穷，旅游当他强求3G 的，但是旅游当他哪让也没有光，虽然大不是，我他提高的那么这几万的广告多，几万商品，在那个嘛商业广告什么忙起是，几万商品给不看完多少了。啥了是连生给拿错的，生给吃汤拿错边面给的，你们单位你们当单位进口等推送上去，咱们已经我去了，那么咱把这些话的公司，我在那么这些话我们这个啥的，说那么这些呢，我们这个样呢在的那么先把别些多进强中，我真是我这边那么一把那么多进强中，我们这个就了吧。我这边光的是的是吧？that's in Jigsaw. This is about Gomdes. What they're saying.
And then next, when you're approaching death, lie down in the lion posture. So when we die, the ideal posture is the lion posture, and that is the posture of the Buddha when he passed into parinirvana. And that is the lion posture is lying on your right side. So you're lying on your right side with your right hand on your right cheek and your left hand resting on your left thigh. That's the lion posture. And then, sorry, holding the concept of death, when there is in fact nothing to die, bring that experience onto the path without expectation. So and we without having any grasping at death is the ideal way to die. So the problem is that we cling to this idea of death, and it makes us suffer. So we think that I'm going to die. What will happen to me? Will I die? And how will it be? And then what will happen when I die? And so on. So we worry about that, and we have these thoughts, and these thoughts have to be released. These are those grasping thoughts. Then how do we release them? So then it says, so you offer everything up. So you make a full offering to the guru and the three jewels of your body, wealth and roots of virtue. Or in essence, anything that you are attached to. The main thing is that what really is not good at the time of death is if there's any attachment to anything at all. And so if there is an attachment to anything, then it's better to let that go before, because that is really going to be an obstacle at the time of death. And then the rest is similar as before. So then again, we go through the fivefold path as a practice. So in order that all sentient beings equal to space possess happiness, be free from suffering, and swiftly achieve unsurpassable, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment, cultivate bodhicitta. Then with that mind, visualize your body as the Yidam, deity, inseparable appearance and emptiness. And then that's different now. So a foot above the crown of your head, visualize a lion's throne surmounted by a multicolored lotus bearing sun and moon discs. Clearly visualize the Holy Guru, the embodiment of the Buddhas of the three times, at the center of the navel and channel. Oh, sorry, we didn't go there yet. So you visualize the Buddha. And so what's different here is that previously we have visualized the guru at a secret place, and so here we are visualizing the guru above the crown. So either the guru, or you can visualize the form of Vajradhara, who has the essence of the guru. And so
저는 다 랑케 리바테니 데베테카 코페나트 홈마부 칸도 나바 자음에나 다들이서도 자음에나 자음마스나나
that Devanala
데베테카 다 데베나 여러와 랑리바테니 데베테카 라비도 데베테카 코페나 라비도 데베테카 코페나 자음마 여러와 코페나한테 홈 마부 홈 칸도 마부 오지 나바 자음에나네 야람신이 총대 성오다 지당 포완정으로 총대 지월 성오라 야통네 라메토 카센바데 라메토 타다 니스미바 아가나 샤고레스 라메토 타다 랑 남시에서다 다자 야바리아 남시제 여러서 라메토 타 니스미바 샤고레스 라메토 타 니스미비 니스미바 이시 거다 랑 셈제바 미베 통 일미 처와티 티킹하나 냠바샤스 라메셈다 랑 셈제바 미바 라메 Togdan rang hik gutna rang sem lame togni smi be shi gutna zen rang sem jeba me ba se jeba me da rang sem tomba ni la pyoro tomba ni te ko yer me ba chorwa da lame togda da ma tugi imin de son ba ru nya ba sha go ko sarwa
and then you visualize at the center of your navel, you visualize a red hung syllable that has the nature of your consciousness, is radiating with light and rising through the central channel and exiting the door of Brahma, so the crown opening, and dissolving into the heart of the Holy Guru. So the Guru, so I guess there's no S there. And then the non-duality of the Lama's heart and the meaning of one's own unborn mind become inseparable. Remain in that equipoise. So this is really the practice of poem, of transferring the consciousness. So your consciousness rises through the central channel, reaches the crown, leaves through the crown, and dissolves into the heart of the Holy Guru. And then your consciousness merges with the Guru's enlightened mind non-dually. And the unborn mind here refers to the empty mind. So your unborn mind is the empty mind. Your empty mind merges indivisibly with the Guru's mind. And then you just and you visualize that and then meditate, just resting in that state.
他这路在那边头堂也没把下，这叫做进步光，你们俩去过的是他也没把下送咱们听到了，要是来下呢，真的先嘛就不变啊，但你们俩听着去那边头的也没这是，那么他先的叫做进步也没把罗的听到们在下的对不对？来这吧的牛毛这吧，西来的但来这现在来这吧牛毛这吧现在这他西街这吧，好像这吧他们几把早晚把他那是，我的看就。가지고 나서 상제 시간 넘버 고som 예매 도전창 고som 예매 바 도전창 심보 다 조베 창조 상제디 소다 상제로 그래스 나 표사로.
And then after your mind has become non-dual, indivisible from the guru's mind, then meditate within that state of Mahamudra without any mental fabrication, and just rest in this meditative state of equipoise. And meditate that all obscurations of karma, afflictive emotions, and subtle obscurations, including habitual imprints, have been purified. You will thereby achieve the enlightenment of Buddhahood, the inseparability of the three kayas of the great Vajradhara in a pure Buddha field like Kechara. So when you rest within that state, that purifies, think that all that has purified is merging with the Guru's mind, has purified all the karmic obscurations and the afflictions, the imprints, and then through that purification, you reach the Pure Lands, you attain the state of Buddhahood.
他这里他就当起呢，他俺俩说出来话，他在宁国，他你们俩去呀，他现在我基本他现在我都他你们俩去呀，他我点几了，他现在我到你们，那时候可能呢，什么健康吃用的，他俺俩说你们俩去过学的，你们俩去他们说先看来说电波的恰红的了哇，先电波在恰红，那他你健康把它吃用的这其他都是当嘛错吧，我才有的，这对于我说你们俩是强者情报，你们俩其实都肯定呢。로차 년도 요즘 가린 소만냠나 지야 요바 제리我这肯定拿成是有的，就当咱讲从参加在加在前波上，你们起码从参加在咱那帮忙不用的就干的忙不用过了吧？他那边强调是那当个是恐怕讲着兄弟在恐怕他们因为在讲着是的让什么当先把什么其他马上，我在成都这什么在当在罗多钱呢？这先把做其他工作干嘛的？我在抽马上都说先拿那出呀，再骗给的。我针对这一篇呢，真的在你们那看的那什么工作做特别了在片头有了吧
？Yeah. And so now these are the four main practices of this five-fold path of Mahamudra that we should really practice at all times. So meaning that when in any circumstance, whatever situation you find yourself in, a positive situation, a negative situation, or just any situation at all, if you always practice with anything that comes up, then slowly your mind will attain some stability, will become more and more settled and steadfast. And then later, even when you encounter a very heavy negative condition, it won't really affect you that much anymore. So therefore, whatever it is, whether it is good or bad or neutral, whatever you encounter your whole day in your life, make it practice. Practice with it. There's nothing outside of practice. Everything is part of the practice. Anything you encounter, if you see it in this way, then your practice will improve very quickly. And so that is not normally when we meditate, we might find it very hard to focus and really meditate on Mahamudra because there's all these thoughts always arising in the mind, and that creates a lot of difficulty for us. The mind is all over the place. We can't really meditate, and that's really because we don't always meditate. We don't make every situation a practice. We separate the practice from the meditation or the daily life. So whatever you do, even if you're just walking, you're walking around, during that time, that becomes your practice. When you're walking, don't think about all kinds of other things. Don't be distracted. Just keep your attention on what you're actually doing. You're walking. Keep your attention on that. And then that will make your mind turn inward and be in the present moment with what you're actually doing right now, instead of being scattered all over the place. And actually, that is the way to improve your practice quickly. If you keep doing that in your daily life, in whatever you encounter, then your practice will keep growing consistently and steadily. And so this is really how we improve our practice.
我当俺做么忙起是没车当做过热的话，像没车当的人这心态，没车当些的，没车提啥怎么当当呀，提啥怎么干嘛，新把西啥没说呢？但那俺这个新把的人这么着，那跑都干是那没做的，没车当下提啥么？这是刚刚穷给哇。
So, for example, nowadays most people drive cars. So when you're driving in your car, then just focus on that, and don't think about anything else. Just focus on driving your car, and don't think about all kinds of other things. So if you're not thinking about all kinds of other things, then you won't have all kinds of other thoughts. You will only have the thought of driving your car. And without all kinds of other thoughts, naturally already, you will have a much less hardship.
我他这里嘛，真多年角没住的，年角嘛，工作就没住的，是破坏钱呢，年角哇，这半点长通了，说别没错那说，但样子什么学就学，但我做西的，我什么的半点长通了，那里那西的是吧学那多，这话呢，我在破坏钱呢，年角被半点长通了，说那么的没错，那错哪那错的，确把都是肯定学就学，那错。人生发展当初么着呢？那错就七八七吧，那错可就那是七八七，是那多他妈多样的事。
And there's this quote from the Full Conduct of the Yogini Tantras. And so that quote essentially is a call upon those deities to be our escort at death. And so we say, when the concept of death, when the concept called death arises, the yogi performs the transference of consciousness or poem and is received into a pure land by deities, herukas, and so forth, holding various lotuses, victory banners, canopies, and musical instruments.
他真七八七，那错意思，没那这边中多，七八七吧，那错意思，那错求就够了的是，但七八七吧，那错的是，那错求可的是，求可人东把你的哇，我求就够了的是。秋季过了减起没事，秋季过了减压有嘛了，气压有嘛了，是那你老多从那在减起都有嘛了，俺说那多在现着过了，但是七八东岸用啊，这那多提东岸送了去。可能。
What's that? I'm sorry, anyways, Milarepa
这意思我的，这让在当一点的嘞。这是来说，他说经常在。
我打科上看上看不到了，长能甚至。
呀，他看了说他那能这心都。
Milarepa 南多。
但是我这当七八岁的，这当那个南多些，南多提给俺让说，这东岸忙不得学的，南多些这里咱们提刚一忙不就有了，俺说，他妈的在现在在说他，那些买些差不多，买那差不多钱，俺说说他忙些是去学的，我这去学的学堂，这几下子了，那一让俺说俺咱们这去头学嘛的。可能。
It's not me.
我这去学的学堂，这去的，他呢，我这俺让说这，我当几把子，那么多提说都忙不当学的，我那么多提说咱们什么这些真的那么多都忙不当学，那么多提我要不大这的，那么多提让一毛着吧，他求可的是在那学啥求几个的是，我这求几个人他这样有嘛的，这样有嘛的是咱们那里边中多。
Milarepa said that death is just a concept, is a thought. And therefore, when you die, it's a thought that dies. And the thought itself is the Dharmakaya. And the Dharmakaya is emptiness. And the empty Dharmakaya, the emptiness is without birth and death. So when you realize that, when you see that nature within yourself, then there is no more fear of death. So that suffering of death is really only, it is created by our thoughts, by our thinking. So therefore, death is just a thought. It is that thought of death that gives us all of our suffering. And in fact, we make our entire life about that. Our whole life, we try not to get sick. We try not to die. So our whole life just circles around that fear of not dying. It circles around our death. We want to avoid death. So that thought of death is what is actually what torments you. But then when you look directly at that thought, the nature of that thought is the Dharmakaya, and that the Dharmakaya is unborn and undying. So it is not an arise and it never ceases to be. And when you see that, there is no fear.
我他这起天呢，我大体他这起他，他打了他这起他这里他满单就可是他这里满就能，他可能比较可能就为了。
So this concludes taking death onto the path, and then everything that follows from here, it belongs to the conclusion of the text.
那多半我是觉得他讲看起我那帮家谁没吧，念不谁没吧，他你是没吧，他讲是没过来是你们，见看的那见的东西嘛着吧，他听到呢，娘是那过来是你们，家看的那见的东西嘛着吧，他听见的我是求人，我但是现在我是求人是。
So it says, thus the primordially unborn mind which abides in the Dharmakaya is, when introduced by the authentic Holy Guru, actualized and practiced in the non-duality free from acceptance and rejection. So the nature of mind is primordially unborn, and the unborn nature of mind is the Dharmakaya, and all beings have that mind. But we need to recognize it, and it is introduced to us by an authentic guru. And if you recognize it upon that introduction, then you may see the nature of the mind, and then everything is realized from there. Then there is no need to reject anything or adopt any kind of antidote, any kind of practice. You just stay within the state of the non-duality, free from acceptance and rejection, the fruit of the two purifications. The Dharmakaya is experienced in this life. So that the fruit of the two purifications is the two purifications refers to having purified the two kinds of obscurations. That is the obscuration of the afflictive emotions and the obscuration to seeing the nature of the mind. So these two obscurations are purified, and through that purification, you see the Dharmakaya, your true nature.
我这上界先看，南巴塔班的罗巴的西巴因为左边强求不成上界玩意，所以我的上界先看南巴安了，这罗我们的是左边强求上界那个的种多。
And this accomplishes the pure Buddha fields, then one attains complete enlightenment.
我真的咱看着嘛，都是过来是吧？咋说呢？
Yeah.
看着嘛，都是过来是见的上界求你，他见完的了上界求你，就是什么光板的上界头，他这边上界图标有嘛的是见的，这样子你们年轻的光头，那都上界图可以是。 人家sem呢，其实但sem的人不经常也是努人不经常有，但对这 sem 把脏嘛说，那其实脏嘛说给讲了吧，脏嘛说那这商界没就sem 钱没事，我这商界在sem 钱你差不多就嘛是，那路多说那他在哪里是？
Then in the Vajradakini tent, it says, the supreme Buddhas in this life attain Buddhahood by meditating on the mind. No Buddhas or sentient beings exist apart from the precious mind. And so from this Dharmakaya, the activities manifest accordingly without conceptual thought, like a wish-granting jewel. So meaning that the mind itself manifests as enlightenment, and there is no other Buddha than the own mind. There's no other sentient being or Buddha that exists apart from that mind. And that seeing that, it becomes like a wish fulfilling jewel. Mind is like a wish fulfilling jewel, and if you polish it of all the obscurations, you see clearly that there is no separate Buddha that needs to be found, but it is recognized within the mind itself.
我他在那个求的过程里，这个他求个说是求个上次接送，那看了看的质量一定的人不去，但多话没别明白，广东讲完这位，但那人不去的那多有嘛，身边的广东讲话在哪几家，别在哪里人是讲完，可能马桶话的各种么建议工作上头推荐抽不军器没办讲完，因为我说但是可能马桶话在身边。所以身边同我提过，当你们突起毛囊讲你的强受什么老说，这有了，他这样的挺直不的呢。所以他身边同期三开三弄做是但上节三天能多是有嘛？我猜那但是个身边同上一没办后续出回来，是他这年来最近他是从哪？
And so from this Dharmakaya, then manifest the activities spontaneously without thought, like a wish-granting jewel. And so that means that a wish-granting jewel has no deliberate thought, that whoever supplicates the wish-granting jewel, it will bestow everything to all beings, whatever is desired, effortlessly and until the end of samsara. And so it doesn't think of benefiting beings. It simply benefits beings naturally. And that continues and for as long as there are sentient beings, and that is because initially, before enlightenment, one has cultivated that motivation of bodhicitta, of wanting to benefit beings, and that is now coming to fruition, and that will be fulfilled. Therefore, for as long as there are sentient beings, one will benefit sentient beings. And one's activities in whatever one does, one will naturally and spontaneously benefit beings without deliberate effort.
我真的他别讲怕弄通别举来是举现在了，没错，南看其实那没错把南看那些的，是没错把这东北你然后南看那些，长久sem的多见子，长久sem多见，但长久sem的有话有嘛的，是他新的嘛投机，身间同期啊投机下长久sem的有话嘛，提前一边周围同事，提前一把的身间同期是那商界同期身间同期啊，身周围同已经纳入到研究，是吧？他已经纳入那些的。身边同北面很多可能中国的是那这种种的多。
Then there's a quote from the Bar Gompa Lungtön Tantra, like space without conceptual thoughts, the enlightened mind holds the Vajra, and the Tathagatas benefiting of migrators will manifest like a wish-granting jewel. So like space without conceptual thoughts. So the enlightened mind here, it refers to the mind of bodhicitta. The mind of bodhicitta is like a vajra. So the mind of bodhicitta is like a vajra in that it is indestructible. So that mind of bodhicitta, of all the Buddhas, will always and effortlessly, spontaneously benefit sentient beings just like a wish-fulfilling jewel.
我真的到这里嘛这多，他那有点多是，我真的知道了嘞，哪米查的嘞， Pedale是唱了马诺吧，朗唱了马诺人都在行。我朗唱了马诺吧，我不的娘孙，朗呢，娘孙朗呢，年轻他们去用品，用天他们去几次，我但你那我不的娘，我点强求什，我点有让我的娘孙朗呢，但你别用他们去的，你们要我在些，你别用，但在唱嘛吧，让一个班专门都给是，你们去呢？你们买几多点就不投个嘛哇？我去给这是用天他们去让一个啥结婚给是，你们去用用天结婚给哇？结婚来是，那先看上届先看那么大样，你看着吧去把音别是，我在上届先看那么差不多，但你着投个来是，怎么老想呢？
Then, thus, if one practices the fivefold path, which is complete and unmistaken, uproots all faults and develops all excellent qualities, this also accomplishes the pure Buddha realm. So if you truly practice the fivefold path, if you practice it well, and in a way that is complete and unmistaken, then that will uproot all faults and it will bring about every excellent quality. And it will also cause you to accomplish a birth in the Pure Land. Of course, one needs to practice and for that to be accomplished. If you don't practice it properly, then this will also not happen.
我当这次了，我电脑中他绝对电脑中他绝对电脑人不接中堂绝对稀开，那说呗，东北去上街种，求他们就设计的，就叫让娘子上来，那个求我不的了，蛮对吧？抗议米，所以他上街电脑中绝对写了说，草嘛从多只那娘们去啊，草嘛，他咱你那么我你呢，蛮对的抗议米是的，从多蛮对的抗议米是。
This is the complete collection of the Buddha's teachings of the three precious Pitakas and four classes of Tantra and so forth, and assembles the essential practices. So there is no Dharma not included here. The fivefold path includes all of the teachings, whether it is the three scripture collections, the four classes of Tantra, all the practices that exist, all have their essence in those five paths. And so therefore, there is no teaching, no practice that is beyond, that is outside of this fivefold path.
我他强求现在我玩宁波等多瞧瞧的了，等一他们的那么小在宁波都是俺瞧的，那多俺你给你们来草嘛只瞧的多瞧的有的是。
It is the essence of the sutras and the tantras in that the path of bodhicitta and dedication, the first and the last, belong to the sutra vehicle, and then the yidam, guru, and mahamudra belong to the tantric vehicle.
但抗美呢，这边没有说，这应该我在马上呢，你们今年那唱有嘛，这边用个嘛的，应该我在以前没唱过的是，我唱过的是没用了，开播起了两种的，的是我开前播的，咱们那两种听着拉票是，你的是，我但要在提中不，我听到在马上呢，你们去多，但这边基本上你们今年其他有嘛的是。
两种去的。
我但两种是过洋车种去种是了，
对了，引起了那个什么？
开播起了两种的意思，对是了，对吧
？Okay.
开前播印度这两种意思。
I don't see that part. Okay, anyway, so then it says, if anyone were missing from this, it would not bear a fruit or a result. So if any one of those five is missing, it will not bear any fruit. So those five must be complete. And then it says, I don't really see that here, but I guess it says also, and I'm repeating this. So I'm repeating this 3 times because this is a crucial point. So I guess in the original, it mentions that part 3 times.
Lama kakemos, lama chekemos, lama karina, lama j la lama ndamon, main damana yoratan to tamont. Lopon kakemos, lopon kimain damon la yorata, suena la fiore. 我他妈没穷死，他妈没穷死，他妈咋全部因是别家穷穷的多，但是没穷死没俺穷穷的别家是提下来多，但是咋全部就没些引起那些，等于那年的用子的话，我听得起， selo dan tolo dulo der ser der ko song ye sele dong der to song sele da tan da ze dulo der do se na wa nian nian mo bo ji sma dans na wa ji nian nam ji sma dans wa na wa nian nian ji dang jo ma se kare se na da nyam lan ti ko se na dans den ze la biao ji bun zhe ma nyam si lang ne nyam si yong zong dong ji tian zong nyam si lang ne nyam si yong go de so so ma ze za ze nen zhe za xin bo yin ze ze zhe ma de ma zo yo wa de gong che nang ka se na 친보좀지 말이 또 해줘지고 친보좀 말이 또 해줘서 친보좀 보다 냠나치 마토 베게 잘했어 다 가시 그가 찾아 친보 있어 가시 그가 엄마 친보 있어 가시 그가 조화 친보 있어我曾就决定俺家的在送的这个냠나 양 타봐用个嘛에 종샤 여러분
So I'm not at all seeing this part now here, but in our text, so I guess then the text continues that so whatever someone tells you, whichever lama or master or whichever precious instruction you receive, or sometimes those lamas have those like small precious texts that say that you just need this precious instruction. It's very very important, and so then you take it as such, and you just follow those words, and you say, oh, I just heard it's very precious. You don't actually maybe really know why it's so precious, but you just follow the words, and you just say that, oh, but it's said it's very precious, and because maybe you even understand a bit, and you say that it's because of this and because of that, and so this is what they say, and so on. And so in this way, you are missing the point of actually practicing. So don't focus less upon the words and know how some say it is and how precious it is and so on, but focus more on the practice. So the point is that you need to practice. And Jigten Sungön also had said that all this knowledge gained has to be actually practiced, has to be experienced, and not just praised for its greatness and expounded upon, talked about, but actually practiced. And in the Gongchik, also Jigten Sumgön said that remaining untouched from the three great ones is the supreme realization. So what that means is the three great ones refers to Mahamudra, Dzogchen, and the middle way. So remaining untouched by the three great ones means when you are touched by the three great ones, you say that I'm a Mahamudra practitioner, I'm a Dzogchen practitioner, I'm a middle way practitioner. Then you are touched. But remaining untouched without grasping of I'm this or that, that is the supreme realization.
真的，他听见那多，那玩意儿就没那是啷不起，你那啷不起，这没事，咱啷不起在哪说呢？这里啷不起，阳下你啥呢？啷不起这个嘛，他这样嘛，这个啷不起，咱他们那啷不起，开始送的，这让这个吧，这有了送的，我这个吧，他啷不起你啥呢？这都不要就这么多，我听见的。那边呢，专注堂点边，研究的堂，别是的专注堂点边，研究边，就我不娘是那些军器没把讲嘛，些我是我那边呢，娘是呢，我是在那说，咱娘们要不去过有嘞，我娘们要不去，那别家这种，可能那边家人去做，看见了没？就有看到啊，我这就晓得，这是我这是大。因为说在娘们说去，别家做样落，什么他在拉小地波去，空地起来抢嘛的，别家做样呢样落下，说空地起下去，这我们说的光把蛮有光把意思老个的，光把蛮有光把意思，他说光过去的，说空气抢过去，但样呢样就我们空听在别家的啦，从这句的这是落下，我们讲是就是那空地抢过的话，这绝对在我们也是特别那就看给的话。And so
I guess now we're back to our text. So the emphasis is that you should not be distracted by elegant words, but should stay focused, just as when an elephant is found, there's no need to continue searching for its footprints. So if you're looking for an elephant, and then you find your elephant, then there's no need to keep looking for the elephant. So there's no need to keep following the tracks if you already found the elephant. And so it's the same with the nature of the mind. Once you have recognized it, there's no need for searching for it further. And for that, we need to practice. We need to practice that well. And the way to approach it is that we can read those texts, but we should meditate on what we read. So this text, for example, has been translated by Kenshin Rinpoche into English, so you can read it, look at the text, read some of it, and then actually practice it, really apply what you're reading. So now we're speaking about it, but if we're just speaking about it, nothing really will happen from just speaking about it or understanding it. We only can develop when we actually practice it. We must really gain a habit. We must familiarize ourselves with that practice. And that is really practicing or meditation. It is said that meditation does not mean that there's this thing that you meditate on, but meditation means to habituate on a consistent basis. So we can read the text, read a little, but then sit with it and meditate on it mainly. And by doing that, that is how your practice improves.
전에 다늘에 전도 직전 좀 공부 냠이 지금 비 시제 도체리 니비 담자 담바 사모 동지 닝보 토지 그 시에 자반더니 샤지 백슈르나 예 백슈스나 게롱로와 샤지 상지 샤다特别简单了说没人那一来人那是一来人出点人钱是拉松假如说说是拉很多把差心啥的
And the last line is the ambrosial teachings of the profound meaning, the quintessence of the heart, are taught by the Lord of the three worlds, so Jigten Sungen, and the unequal Drigungba. And so this was written down by Shakya Bhikshu Shila Ratna. So Bhikshu means a fully ordained monk, and Shila Ratna was the Tibetan name for Tsultrim Rinchen. So this completes the text.
that's ngadiant gomnarwa ngadiant gomna nyamnanda chiung dute penyong da kharo sana da te yore pamo chwe ngadiant shokta se je yoro shokta shokta wora shokta o shokta se tinang kharo zong wora se changcho samdi na hedang te me ba so to be hedang te mi ba dong da si na dong jerbo ke dong da jergong jerbo de jande na ta zo ba jerbo yora jerbo na te dong jerbo sen do no ba jin jergong sen de da yoro da 我真正懂把写出来的，我真的写当间就做吧，就是往对头的头个的是，我真的，做吧就是往对头个的是，我真的先动就个的是，先动，这面容一些吃个的是，面容一些，可松
，yes，
我在今年我们多下次你听着个的是，多下次吧，就我们头下那个做个的是。那动没动这做盘就我们头个的是，没动西个的，没动西个的是，多下见着话是往对头个的是，真的那话心机跟弄的是，那话心机弄头个的是，那话怎么去心机弄头个的是，真的说错一点钱个的是，说错一些，一些是，
那话是跟，说错一些，
说错一些钱个的是。真的那面那就是光红呢，俺家人俺家怎么咱就我们特别没把说，女生的俺家是那起头个的是嘛，那个现在咱没俺家是没把说头个的是，真的他会动谁有了他会动，他对呢他会对谁用多些，他会对动的盘就我们特别写头个的是，那俺家人按照话说往对头个的是，我真的让人他们去亲戚那个的是，老头个的是。真的냠니一些吃个是냠니一些有人一些安能了。我在强在情报光被 demo 是你听着个是，真的旅客东怕写出个是，旅客那把，旅客那把是那东是那才怕写出个是，demo 见咱这话是说往对出个是，跟可话的出个是，可话出个是全一些吃个是，全一些。在我话其那在长岛听你听着个是，我话在长岛那听着。真的动乐的自然去动把写出个的是自然有了，可说，我在长岛见着话是往对出个的是， 제 게사 라안로야 말스 게사 리데게레스 제 차로비신 차르게레스 다 통보스 라칸 직서
Mm. And then, so there are a few more instructions on the benefit of the fivefold path of Mahamudra. And there's a teaching on that by Mahamudra. The Shokta, and it's the Shokha.
쇼르 뭐 차차 쇼차차
Oh, oh,
통다스레 쇼차차 메이커
stop, 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 stop.
말을 잡차마 차차 차차 걸고
찾아봐라.
음
Then you show the paper.
레레
So it's called the multicolored scroll, I guess. Like a basically paper, a multicolored paper scroll.
나된 쇼차 나된 쇼차
So the multicolored scroll of the fivefold path. That's the name of the text by Mahamudra. And so here he speaks about the benefits of each of those 5 paths. And the first one is bodhicitta. So he says that through the practice of bodhicitta, one pacifies the affliction of hatred or anger, and one will pacify or bring under one's control the a spirit class called the Gyalpo spirits, which is like a kingly, very powerful spirit class. So one overpowers, one brings under control those Gyalpo spirits, and one will also be able to control all those beings with a lot of anger. And in that way, one will accomplish the benefit of others, and the mirror-like wisdom will arise. And then second, through the practice of the yidam, or the generation stage, one will pacify the affliction of desire, and one will bring under control the female demon, like spirits, and one will bring also under one's control or overpower all those beings with desire. And one will bring all appearances under one's control. And as a result, the discriminating wisdom will arise. Through the practice of the Guru Yoga, one purifies, pacifies the affliction of pride, and one will bring under one's control the Mara of the son of the gods. One will destroy this Mara of the son of the gods, and one will bring under one's control or subdue all those beings with much pride, and one will gain the ability to confer blessings upon others and oneself, and the equanimity wisdom will manifest. Then through the practice of Mahamudra, ignorance will become pacified, and the demon spirits related to the physical body, to one's body, become pacified, and one will subdue all those beings who are ignorant. One will become liberated from samsara, and the Dharma Dhatu wisdom will manifest. And then dedication, through practicing dedication, the affliction of jealousy will become pacified, and one will bring under one's control the Naga beings and the called the Zen spirits. So these are kind of malicious, kind of naughty, malicious kind of spirit beings. So the Nagas and the Zen spirits will be brought under control, and one will control all those beings with jealousy. One will not lose the virtue, the merit that one has created, and the all-accomplishing wisdom will manifest.
다 전류 지용도 되는 다들 저 덴바 톱송나 덴바 톱에서 다 통하고 담지 통나가 여러 평하고 담지敲在 침보 출그레스 我在敲在 침보 출그레스 可能출그레스那没关没为长久性没关没吧长久性囊通人民来快 군대 라메 로와 단 군대 참치 라메 로와 백종 일미敲在前部因可说明的我吧我的人把现在的陈主任是强身强身他可强身模糊强身内陆强身因我吧强身是我的强身个点是我的团大陈主任是强身个点是的用是差的大陈主任中多
And when one has gained stability in that five-fold path, in those five practices, then each one of those five will become Mahamudra itself. And so how does it become Mahamudra? Bodhicitta becomes unconditional bodhicitta, unobjectified bodhicitta. The deity appears as this unity of appearance and emptiness, as an empty appearance. And all appearances of samsara and nirvana then manifest as the display of the guru. And one realizes the indivisibility of awareness and emptiness. So one realizes empty awareness, and that is Mahamudra. And the Mahamudra dedication is when there are no three spheres, no subject and object. And so in this way, bodhicitta is Mahamudra, the yidam is Mahamudra, devotion is a state of Mahamudra, the state of Mahamudra is, and dedication without the three spheres also becomes Mahamudra. All five paths become Mahamudra.
전에 당하랑 저 다 차송 전에 다 깔마 가해도 저 깔마 가해요. 전에 저 지금 저와 통통 전에 용呢뭐를 저와를 스고는 저와 통통 전 저와 망보 개자 안에 저와 멤버 개자 망보 랍디 최소 상마조 대지 저와 저 당야 최소 하시면도 네 로지 최소 요 마고 같이 저와 카톡 너무 당나 저와 통통 전에 당요나 당지
So now that completes our teachings, and so we do have a few minutes left. So we can maybe use the time if you wish to ask a few questions, but let's keep the questions short, and one question per person. And then if it's your turn, also don't talk too much. Don't like give a whole background story. Just go directly to the question, because if you explain too much, then that takes away the time for others to ask another question. So just go straight to the question.
저와 미나 개요 말에 이제 몇 거야요 말에서
It's also fine not to have any questions. We don't necessarily need to have questions.
So you were mentioning clear light practice, and if we just practice Mahamudra, we'll become familiar with it. Is there anything else to say about this clear light practice?
글쎄
요새 고라 디삼 소인밤 데니 자게 전부 겁나 데니 요새 디 랑신지 하콘로 여러와 데니 이네 안치당 요새 믹스 요새 냠랑기 고라 데자 송야요나
다 어서 냠나 믹스 자요 말에 저도 어서 냠나 뜻을 니 강다 찾아 신보 찾아 냠나 치 토비아 저 장한 거 여러와
So there's not really a separate clear light practice, but so clear light practice means that you are training in Mahamudra while you are in a sleep state.
Do you have any instructions?
다 뭐보자 뭐도 단 저기데
Det kalder til nikabla.
제단테 뜻이나 저게 다 저소랑 예담다 곰 예들이 되니까 홍공본도 양도 남아도 괜찮다고 스곰 대교 초시되려나 다 바니고 그 신토다지 내고 정말 오테카 오즈에들 라류 남아 정말 오 칸데시 들이봐 정말 오즈에로 저래 곰 대고 시세기로 들이 제트베아데 디나 되냐면 많이 치ቶም 찾아 신보노 들이 오시세트로
Maybe one brief instruction is that when you fall asleep and you go to sleep, you can visualize yourself as the yidam and then fall asleep with that yidam in mind, or you can just visualize, for example, a blue hung syllable at your heart or the guru at your heart, and think that this hung or the guru, whatever you visualize, is radiant with light. And so fall asleep with that, just with this radiance of light in your mind, you fall asleep. And then as you fall asleep with your body filled up with light, then it may be even possible that you may recognize that you have some awareness that while you are in the sleep, while you're sleeping, you have an awareness of the fact that you're sleeping without being unconscious. And so that is a way to sustain Mahamudra practice without distraction in the sleep state. And that awareness of the sleep state is then what we would call luminosity or clear light.
야, 되네, 제발. 요에다.
Any other question? Yes, there's one in the chat. Should I ask that one? Could you please elaborate on the 5 wisdoms, please? Die Yishinga die distraction or no?
That's the Yangcha Lab, so
You mean repeat what we already mentioned, or say something else about it? Shit.
And it's just you.
But the Yishinga, that's the one by Shedan par number Tason, that Shedan Zimi number Melon Yishin Donda, and Docha number Tason, so Yishi. Tene, that the Docha Shedan, demo number Tason, Chuin Yishi, or Tene, Naja number Tason, Yamni Yishi, or Tene, Chando number Tason, Cherobishi. Wata ishi nga tar wata ne shedang namda ata menong ishi tar dorje simban rangwa chi dosha namda ata surto ishi nangwan tayi rangwa chi rimin rangwa java ray nga yorwa tene tata karse tata ti demo namda ata chuen ishi nambar nangzi rangwa chi tene tata ti ngajan namda ata nyamni ishi rinchen jungde rangwa chi tene changdo namda ata chero ishi tongyo chuba rangwa tanru.
So when hatred becomes purified, it manifests as the mirror-like wisdom, and that is the essence of Vajrasattva. And when a desire attachment becomes purified, it manifests as the discriminating wisdom, and that is Amitabha. And when ignorance is purified, it manifests as the Dharmadhatu wisdom, and that is Vairocana. When pride is purified, it appears as the equanimity wisdom, and that is Ratnasambhava. And when jealousy is purified, it appears as the all-accomplishing wisdom, and that is Amoghasiddhi.
Yeah, then.
I have a question. Blessed Drupal.
Ah?
I have a question, Blessed Drupal, but I'm worried that it might be a bit long.
Kare?
Whatever to you in that dictionary is ringbo chagari.
Well, tung
Can you abbreviate it?
Mambo china nga zo mo mambo chwa yo te tuzo sha. Ndara go sa ro pandore.
Because we don't have too much time, and maybe other people also want to ask. So just try to summarize it, maybe.
Okay, so I just say now I find that as opposed to Mahamudra being scary, it's actually the opposite, and I can use what fears are left to help me with the practice. I had the bad magic mushroom trip back in '87. This caused all the fears in drinking. Can I be sure with Mahamudra that these fears and deep despairs will go before death? Will they fade away? Or will they kind of come in and out?
So the fear was about what exactly? Sure, I didn't catch that. What was the fear about? About black magic? Did I hear that right?
No, a bad magic mushroom trip caused the fears.
Magic mushrooms.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And then the fear was about what?
The fear came from that, the fear of death.
Okay, yeah. And then that led to the okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yes, Anna.
Yes. Det där och 중대 갑라라 나 응망마다 다 bachelor 중업 중을라라
어,
데데데네 공직 쉐몽지 여러와 드니 디 이나디 쉐몽디 타마나 본다와 드니 디 라신도라 쉐몽디
이
디 사야
샤몽에,
쉐몽에 마슈라 디 사야
나야,
여러 디 사나 드니 칙칙칙 다음에 통거독 디
알래,
사나
아야,
디네 요레 디니 다나 디 요레다 라시에
어,
라워시독
어,
드니 디코 이는 디 사나 드니 삼삼라 레발라 견시 조거다
네네,
드니 코 디 사르와 디가블라 드니
네네,
코랑 텔라 테네 드니 코랑 Chingnan chi lepsong
알래,
pena shiva ke kola chindo e kola tini tamda
알래,
ko tini ko semba ma deva chasan dor tini tini tela tini ko ara
어,
thunya go chorwa
네네.
tini ta tanda ko ta taron din degi yorwa tini ta machine hun la tini chake chembo nyamnen la tene tini ti chingnan di khanda sa dor go to tila ko sorry
알래, 다 제당치나, 나한테 냠냠시라 미스라, 다 사마냠시라. 이나 제당치나 나랑서 다 뭐카제 다 전주 사야 소 거는 와. 我腾出去年我有嘛的，那个在杭州对吧？对出票去的，对跑了弄的哇，对的，没看见杭州成百万斤抢上土上的我用的哇，我这种通的我有嘛，抢上是种的，有来通过忙通过这个下的，的先别什么现在那路跑变弄到路上弄个人抢哪去？我对于其他去就嘛，这里先他那个嘛，虚拟吧，就当个给他现当做要错不得了，要嘛的是。超在进步年来，今现在才错不得了嘛？这现在可能用的呢，听我大多的，前两天现在用呀，这有了的，听我让的，听年来他满眼一把种，我听着有人不种的，这已经偏见的，是他们他的南上的系列呢，底下可能那个其他同个的产品们都是。
So first of all, so Ruben says I personally I don't have any a personal experience with that, like with magic mushrooms, because I said I never ate that. But that I've heard that some people like these kind of things. But although I have no personal experience, it's not a good thing. So we should all keep that in mind because people often think that there is some kind of they get something out of that by doing that, but then in the end it always turns into something that's not so good. It's the same with drinking. People drink because they think maybe it makes them feel better for the moment, but then they get addicted and then it affects your mind and also your body negatively. So first of all, it's better to stay away from any of these substances. And then about the fear that arises. Um, so as we mentioned, when the fear arises, then the way you practice Mahamudra with it is you look at it directly. So the fear arises and you just observe the fear. So you kind of exist with it, you be with it, yeah, without rejecting it. You're just with the fear and you're looking at it, and you look at what's actually there. And eventually, if you really stay in a state of non-distraction of that being with whatever appears, then it will actually go away and you will see that it doesn't exist. But of course, just by looking at it once, you can't expect that it will just go away. But you will have to practice for a very long time and really persevere. Otherwise, there won't be any benefit. So it's not an immediate benefit. So maybe if a fear comes and you look at it and nothing happens, you may even think that, well, that doesn't really work. But it may seem that way, but it's just because you need to habituate to it.
对啊，
Thank you. Thank you.
真的，吃完多的，那没哪里，
Any other questions?
吃小很多蛮多。
Yeah, I have one. I'm
yeah.
not exactly. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm not exactly sure how to word it, but I would really like for you to explain the tangibility, if you will, of merit, like what merit is, because it's a little weird to me that it would be destructible. You know, if it's all one true nature and nothing separate from the deity, what does it really matter where we dedicate merit to? It always goes to the same self, and how we do it. Like what gives merit substance compared to other things? Like Thank you.
Tächu synamsiat ja puha komendok.
Ole.
Kaiken synamsiat tangas kitsa laptan tina chala daura. Tächit
Ei.
moja daura millä tea ja nati laja jorva kien tina tini lando jorva. Tini
Ei.
ngova ja patin misen pala tigi jorva. Tini nguna vena ti synamsiat karis ku nguna vena ti chala nangji marva ko suktun tuki jo marva. Tini nguna sena tini suk matum na tini nguna vena lando ko chi jo marva la tuki jo marva. Tini ante tuki jo marva. Tini sem ngovo matokra.
당연하고 살이 피자. 야야,这做那么些呢，就当我做，听着没这么多，没可惜在这边就是要不能，我说没这么多东西，他这没把新闻做吧，先把拍下去是吧？没可惜在看了看咱们在说吧的，可是来的要不，几部成都可能啥上呢，什么几部有的成都有的，没可惜别动啊，刚刚忙过就有的。我这种我们基本上面说那么杂七凶的差的，说那么现在他成都的是讲说通常这没来这么多在一起。旁博者，你那在我话去，可是用到我话在说起用的，但我这样不是打发中国话，身边他们去身体块的是，身边的身体块的是，别人我那做我话去呢，真的身边先把做了偏给的，但是我做先偏什么都用，那让他做那不咋个的，他先偏什么就有了。我这有对他让他做那不咋个，但现在的包括这身边他们的身体块都现在把。我话去，人们去那想骗给你，我这样都有你我他真没得了，他就骂的说的，前边来了，对面要这三把大，前边来对面你不要钱报名了，这三把大去过的是，我这去那得骗给你，然后说那不咋个，现在骗给你，然后说那不咋个的是，说那不咋嘛啥谁的在，他在那种通过的了，现在他就那么掐的有的是，他在。没这我现在在听着，那去嘛不是的，基本上吃血嘛，帮我说，这个做那么说那么两那才吃血的是。
So how can we observe merit, although it's not a material thing? So let's just look at human beings. And when we look at human beings, at different kinds of people in the world, we see great differences. Some people who are very well off, they are wealthy, they have very harmonious families and so on. And then there's others who are in constant trouble, have lots of problems. And that is all, the difference is all due to the different merit that we bring with us from past lives. And that manifests in this life. And so in terms of passing on merit to others, like through dedication, how is that passed on? Since it is immaterial, and it is precisely because of that it is passed on, because of that merit, the dedication that transcends the three spheres. Gachin Rinpoche always says that means that all sentient beings have one and the same mind. And because there is one and the same mind, if we dedicate to them, others do actually receive it because we are one with them. So if we, it reaches them naturally because it's part of us. And that is also why we always say, even if you're unable to help others, you should always have the wish to help others, because then your merit will just naturally grow. And the merit grows because our minds are connected, because our minds are one. That is how you can actually benefit others. So merit, although it's immaterial, it's also not nothing. It also does something. And so we can see that by just looking around, the difference in people, like not everyone is in the same kind of situation, not everyone is the same. Some experience more fortune than others do, and that's all depending on the merit that we bring with us from previous lives.
我做好别就有的，我嘛看起这些路了大是那个，我嘛看起了这些路大是。起码看着他的来了啥来的，他的来了，但是他的来看开始基本的来看开始，但是我他真就来不出来，我做好别的。
We have this saying in Tibetan. It says, if you wish to know what you were in the past life, then look at your present body. You know what you did in the past. And if you want to know where you will go next, then look at your present actions. So where you will go next depends on your karma or on your actions now.
Yeah, that's
One more question.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. From Karma, how to deal with dullness and agitation when using Hong or Bindu as the object of meditation? How do we
Tani
dullness?
Tani
Kala.
hung dang tigle migbeten osongna ra kom
Really?
ke kapla hung
Really?
yang na tigle
Really?
tani tela tani chingwa yang na gupa laptop tani khara chi gori
好，在情况国吧来，那情况他们我用的 same 的是这个这样过的，是这么样的是，这是 same 的全部休憩是过的是，我全部休憩是情况做了，国吧嘛不来，但嘛 same 的路是，这是把路路的是，全部这个是这样个嘛的是。
ta ine and ti pena sangi ki ko ta bo komna tani masa
他
idar ba tani tigle tang hung komna khame go so
他他没时间嘛都，他真的来
mm. Yeah. Okay, so when you feel mentally dull, then so there's no special visualization point here, but when you feel mentally dull, then you just have to apply more focus. You just have to make a greater effort to focus your mind, your awareness. And if you feel restless, a lot of thoughts in your mind, then you have to relax a little bit more.
呀，但是真的，我的读机器真的俺当初那读机器，thank you。呀，有的时候在课程期的那读机器是啊，因真的那碰见上嘛了读机器，我真的在车头了碰见上嘛了读机器，真的上嘛在你们也不容易啊当，嗯。当然，可上俺说你嘛，你是当然俺说你们俩来去给下一天去了哇，我上嘛个我穷，真的上嘛你们俩也不六线这座六的线这座对我用要的，你们俩也不用要，这把我那么学是。
And so thank you, everyone. Especially thank you for Elizabeth for organizing these teachings, this event. And thank you for everyone who came here and everyone who followed on the live stream. And now we have been able to practice together and speak, talk to each other for the last couple of days. And I was very happy. I felt really good. It was a very good practice together. I was very happy to spend this time with you. And I pray that your body and mind will be well and happy, and that your practice will develop.
我真的有的时候那么长嘛读机器了，学我是读机器是不太长嘛的地方，我就那的长嘛的长面那么长面就不出名啊，也会有么咯。
And also thank you to Elizabeth whole family, because they also made that possible. So they let me stay in their house and so on, and all of that was only possible really because of their support as well.
我真的这个就是长嘛了，读机器给就念长嘛。
And thank you to all the translators too.
Thank you, Jupan.
Ja, dann also dedication sich an.
Now let's dedicate.
Let me offer this for you.
他给我买的是，他上地上了吧？他给我买的是。
Said no need. You already gave that yesterday.
Thank you. Please come back again and again.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay, dedication. Pidgin Nancy, English, Nancy.
Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root, and lineage lamas, divine assembly of Yadams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, heroes, and heroines, Yogini and assembly of Dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please lead me. By the power of this vast fruit of virtue, may I benefit all sentient beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise within my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of states. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. Even at death, may the torment of suffering not arise. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such, and in the pervasive clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
It is page 24 in English.
By this merit, may I attain omniscience. Having defeated the enemies of my wrongdoings, may I liberate all beings who are tossed in the ocean of samsara by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Precious, glorious, root Guru, seated on a lotus at my heart, hold me with kindness and bestow accomplishments of body, speech, and mind. I pray for the excellent health of the Guru. I pray that the Guru lives a supremely long life. I pray that the Guru's activities spread far and wide. Grant blessings that I may not be separate from my Guru. May every sick individual be quickly cured of disease. May all illness, without exception, never occur under any circumstance. By the force of this powerful merit, may the aspirations of the benefactors and their circles be accomplished within this very life. May all obstacles be pacified. May everything be auspicious, and may their wishes be fulfilled according to the Dharma. Through this virtue, may all sentient beings in the three realms and all the deceased who wander in the bardo abandon taking birth in evil states and attain the happiness of higher birth. Just as the hero Manjushri realized things as they are, so too did Samantabhadra. I will follow in their path by perfectly dedicating all of these virtues. Since all such dedications have been praised as supreme by the Buddhas of the three times, I perfectly dedicate all my roots of virtue toward excellent conduct. By the blessings of the Buddhas who attain the three kayas, by the blessings of the truth of the unchanging Dharmata, and by the blessings of the undivided Sangha order, may my aspirations be fulfilled according to this dedication. By the power of the three jewels truth, by the blessings of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, by the power of having fully perfected the two accumulations, and by the pure and inconceivable nature of the Dharma Dhatu, may these prayers be fulfilled accordingly. By the virtues selected in the three times by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, precious, perfectly complete awakening. May this very place itself enjoy happiness and peace at dusk and at dawn. May midday too be delightful and comfortable. May the auspiciousness of the three jewels be ever present, causing peace and happiness throughout day and night.
谢家滚在滚前去结结，连着你了望头只有把人前把结单把身体花了也着土上滚边自就结。Yeah, okay, thank you. Mhm.
Thank you everyone for coming. Please come back again. So lovely to have you. Thank you for all your contributions and being here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trupamla.
Thank you.
Hi, Anna.
Thank you, Inala.
You.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining online and helping us grow here. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.